Our story opens on the brink of despair. Battered and bloodied, a young man named Crash Valheim is on his last legs. A commanding voice cuts through the chaos. It's Sigrun Efania, the third princess, demanding he steal the curse afflicting their leader, Lord Arthur. But Crash is at his limit, the toll of his power etched on his face in blood and tears. With a surge of dark purple energy, he pushes past his breaking point, his runic tattoos glowing ominously. His hands, covered in the same strange runes, become a conduit for an incredible power. His eyes widen, not in fear, but in grim determination. This is his purpose, his curse. He unleashes his innate ability, a terrifying power known as Blackhood. A massive sentient shadow erupts from his body, a monster of pure darkness answering his call. The shadow lunges, its tendrils wrapping around its unseen target, ready to consume any affliction. But this power comes at a great cost. As the skill activates, blood pours from Crash's eyes, a grim price for his unique talent. We flash back to see the so-called heroes, Lord Arthur and his three loyal companions, Sigrun, Abella, and Mary. They stand before an impossible foe, their forces decimated. Lord Arthur looks on, a grimace on his face. From the fiery abyss, a monstrous entity emerges, the horned skeletal rider, an omen of certain death. With its glowing blue eye and massive scythe, the rider looks like a god of destruction. It unleashes a cataclysmic attack, a meteor of fire that shatters the very mountains around them. Lord Arthur declares the fight impossible with their current numbers, his expression one of defeat. His legendary sword clatters to the ground, a symbol of their extinguished hope. He calls his companions to his side, preparing for the end. The three women rush to him, their faces a mixture of fear and adoration for their fallen lord. But Crash can only watch, his own body pushed to the brink, panting from the exertion of his power. He glares at the man he just saved, a furious question burning in his eyes. "What the hell are you doing?" Lord Arthur, with blood dripping from his lips, coldly declares, "I'm ending this." He proclaims that the world's hope has been extinguished, and all that's left is destruction. Crash collapses to his knees, not from his wounds, but from the sheer weight of Arthur's betrayal. Rage boils within him. "You're giving up?" he snarls, his sanity beginning to fray. He reminds Arthur of the countless soldiers who sacrificed their lives just to get them here. He mockingly asks if hanging around with his female companions has finally driven the so-called hero insane. Sigrun Efania explodes with fury, screaming at Crash to be silent. The third princess fiercely defends her lord, her face splattered with blood as she yells that Arthur did everything he could. She calls Crash trash who can only steal things, telling him he has no right to lecture a true hero. "Trash?" Crash says, a crazed look in his eyes. The insult snaps something within him. He points a trembling, tattooed finger at them, the memories of their hypocrisy flooding back, reminding them that without his, Trash, ability, none of them would have survived this long. Starting with Abella, the Red Witch of the Magic Tower. She was afflicted with a curse that sealed her voice, rendering her powerful magic useless. She had begged Crash to steal the curse, only to turn on him later, attacking him while he was weak. Her arrogant expression in the past mirrors her disdain for him now. And just like then, her attitude of ignoring people hasn't changed one bit. Next, he turns his attention to Mary Diana, the Knight of the Efania Empire. She was a brainless fool who charged into battle without thinking, collecting curses like they were trophies. Crash remembers her crying and wailing, begging him to take away the affliction she brought upon herself. And finally, the princess, Sigrun, who dares to call him trash. Crash recalls how he sacrificed his own eye to cure her of a curse that had blinded her. This was despite the fact that back at the academy, she and her faction had targeted him relentlessly. He endured her constant bullying, the beatings, and the humiliation. The other students would mock him, questioning if he was truly from the powerful Valheim bloodline. Yet, he endured it all and healed her, gouging out his own eye in the process. He did it because she was one of the Azure generation, the supposed saviors of the world, and he was considered a disgrace, a useless failure who couldn't even fight back. His voice cracks with anguish as he screams, "All this time, I've been cleaning up after you people. What the hell was it all for?" Lord Arthur simply stares back, his expression unreadable. Crash says, looking at Arthas, "You could have saved the world." Crash remembers a time when he looked up to Arthur, pledging his loyalty. He watched Arthur on the front lines and decided in his heart to stay by his side. But that memory is now shattered, replaced by the bitter reality of his betrayal. "So why are you giving up so easily at the end?" Crash asks, his last shred of hope fading. Arthur's answer is a chilling revelation. Like I said, he begins, "This world is already finished." He tells a stunned Crash, "So I'm gonna start over from the beginning." Crash's mind reels. Start over? What could that possibly mean? Arthur's lips curl into a sinister smile. "This isn't the first time I've experienced the world's destruction," he says. His red eyes glow with an otherworldly power as he reveals his ultimate trump card. "Because my skill is regression." Crash is speechless. Arthur can turn back time. But the true horror is yet to come. Arthur reveals that through a memory inheritance technique, his companions can also regress while keeping their memories. Crash's eye widens in terror at the implication. If the heroes could start over with all their accumulated experience, the chances of saving the next world would increase dramatically. Arthur confirms his thoughts. Exactly. I'll start from the beginning again with these three. The world seems to tilt on its axis for Crash. Stunned, he asks the one question that remains. What about me? Arthur's replies with an evil smile. You're not needed. The full weight of the betrayal finally crashes down on him. His face is a mask of pure shock and horror. Arthur condescendingly admits that Crash's Black Hood skill is useful for stealing unbreakable curses. But he points out that Crash's current self is completely worn out, his body and mind in ruins. Why would he bring back a broken tool? Wouldn't it be more efficient, he muses, to get a fresh, clean, and untouched version of Crash in the next timeline? It all clicks into place. The final, soul-crushing piece of the puzzle. Like a disposable item, Crash whispers in horror. He planned to use me and throw me away from the start. Arthur looks down on him, a god casting aside a broken toy, and promises with a smirk, don't worry, I'll use you in the next world and the one after that too. His final words are a twisted farewell. See you again, Crash. As Arthur and his companions begin to fade, leaving Crash to die in a doomed world, he reaches out a desperate hand. The crushing truth settles in. He was never their companion, just a means to an end. He screams, take me with you, you bastard! But they are already gone. The accumulated curses in his body take their final toll, and his consciousness begins to fade. His hand, once a symbol of his power, now feels heavy and useless. He clenches his fist. His life will not end before this world does. He refuses to let it end like this. With his last ounce of strength, a new resolve burns in his eye. He won't be a puppet anymore. He remembers a hidden aspect of his power. Black Hood doesn't just steal curses. It works on skills too. With a manic grin, he decides to bet everything on one last gamble. His skill erupts from his body, not as a controlled shadow, but as a maelstrom of desperate, untamed darkness. With his own body as the catalyst, he activates his skill one last time, Black Hood. The shadow doesn't just envelop a target. It lunges towards the fading image of Arthur, aiming to seize his very essence. The skill connects. Crash feels a strange power flowing into him, but his vision blurs. The shadow consumes Arthur's fading form, pulling something vital from him. The runes on Crash's body burn as he completes the impossible theft. Arthur reappears, his condescending smile gone, replaced by a look of shock. Crash, you still haven't given up. Crash tells him, you've experienced countless destructions. In timeline after timeline, you has used me and left the used-up version of me behind in a dying world. But this time is different. Crash says with a broken smile, this time, you're the one being left behind. Arthur snaps, so you've finally lost your mind? But a slow, insane smile spreads across Crash's face. He gestures towards the looming skeletal rider, a final parting gift to his savior. The terrifying monster turns its glowing eye towards the now powerless Lord Arthur. You said this world would only face destruction, right? Crash taunts. Arthur's eyes widen in sheer terror as he realizes his fate. He is trapped, stripped of his regression skill, left to die in the very world he tried to abandon. Crash's voice echoes with cold fury. If you don't want to die, struggle on your own. The horned rider raises its massive scythe, ready to deliver the final blow to the former hero. As the blade comes down, Crash's last thought is a vow. I'll be the one to save the next world. His vision fades to white. The end has come, but then, a flicker of light. A sense of warmth. His eyes slowly flutter open. He finds himself staring up at a familiar ornate chandelier. A scream escapes his lips. He looks around and notices it looks familiar. Then it snaps. This is the house I lived in when I was little. Then a pop-up appears. Crash Valheim, age 15, regression complete. In Crash's memories, the root of all destruction is revealed. A phenomenon known as world erosion. This is no mere disaster. It's a cosmic event where their world is literally consumed and overwritten by another. When this occurs, the environment warps, and terrifying erosion species invade from the alien world. Among them, the most dangerous are the humanoid ones, with fangs that hunger for this new world. A dark-skinned elf-like woman, a world invader, appears with her monstrous wolf beast, a harbinger of the apocalypse. The invaders descend upon the cities, sowing chaos and fear. The people can only scream and run for their lives. Against this overwhelming threat, only a select few could stand. They were known as the Azure Generation. Lord Arthur and his companions, Abella, Mary, and Sigrun, were the vanguard, humanity's last hope. They met the invaders with legendary steel and powerful magic, a desperate battle for survival. And then there was Crash, a boy with runic tattoos, armed with no sword or spell, only a body that could seal away curses, a living receptacle for the world's filth. Treated as a tool, betrayed by his comrades and left to die, Crash remembers his past life as nothing but a miserable tragedy. But the cold embrace of death never comes. Instead, his eyes flutter open to a blinding light. He bolts upright with a gasp, his mind reeling. This isn't the frozen wasteland where he died. He's in a lavish, opulent room. A room he recognizes, with a sickening sense of nostalgia. Just moments ago, he was freezing in the dead of winter. Now, it's a summer so hot it makes him sweat. He stumbles out of bed, his small body barely holding the weight of his old memories. This is Blue Pine Hall, the place of his childhood exile. As his mind races, he recalls his final, desperate gamble against the man who threw him away. With his very life on the line, he unleashed Black Hood on Arthur, and, against all odds, managed to steal the regression skill. A crazed, triumphant laugh escapes his lips. He did it, he stole the hero's ultimate power. But as his laugh fades, a question surfaces. How? How was he able to steal a skill of that magnitude? Black Hood isn't some all-powerful cheat code. The skill has a fatal flaw, a built-in restriction to prevent it from being completely broken. When Crash targets something to steal, Black Hood generates a SOM lock to protect it. Let's to understanding the skill's mechanics. The lock's difficulty is determined by how much the owner values the target. If an owner considers a simple stone precious, the unlock condition could become something absurd, like transferring 99% of the world's wealth to them. This means that highly valued targets, like the unique skills of the Azure generation, should be nearly impossible to steal. So the question remains, for a skill as powerful as regression, a skill that was Arthur's ultimate trump card, what was the unlock condition? He remembers the moment of the theft clearly. As his shadow latched onto Arthur's fading form, he couldn't see a lock, there wasn't one. The horrifying truth dawns on him. If there was no lock, it could only mean one thing. Arthur, the so-called Hero King, actually wanted to discard the regression skill. Crash's mind flashes back to his time with the hero. He remembers Arthur looking at him, not with camaraderie, but with a strange, detached gaze. He recalls the moments when Arthur, even in victory, wore an expression of utter exhaustion, his eyes hollow and distant. He wasn't fighting like a hero saving the world. He was moving like a machine, completing a tedious chore, endlessly repeating the world's destruction, all alone, for countless timelines. No one could have stayed sane. He realizes that for Arthur, regression wasn't a blessing. It was a curse, an eternal prison of despair. That's why he had his three companions inherit his memories. He couldn't bear the loneliness anymore. He planned to regress with them, to share the burden of his cursed existence, all while leaving Crash, his disposable tool, to rot in the forgotten timeline. The fact that Black Hood worked so easily proves it. Arthur had completely abandoned his own skill, and so, the Arthur he knew, stripped of his only escape route, was left behind on the brink of destruction. His final moments were not of heroic sacrifice, but of pure terror as he faced the Blue Knight of Death's meteor shower and died, consumed by the very apocalypse he was trying to flee. Crash stole the very curse Arthur was so desperate to throw away. A small, bitter smile plays on his lips. He should be thanking me instead. The memories of their betrayal still burn, always leaving him out, treating his suffering as an afterthought. He remembers them callously watching as the curses he absorbed racked his body with agony. They never saw him as a companion, just a convenient way to cleanse themselves of their own mistakes. The pain, the humiliation, the tears he shed for their sake, it all comes flooding back. But that pain is now mixed with a cold, satisfying vengeance. Serves you right, you bastard. He now stands in Blue Pine Hall, a place of painful memories, but also the start of his new life. He checks his reflection. He's small. He must be around 10 years old. His body is short but muscular, a testament to the brutal training he put himself through every day, just to survive in the Valheim family, the strongest martial house in the Starborn Kingdom. Being here, in Blue Pine Hall, means this is just after the proving ceremony at age 10. A ceremony where the Valheim descendants contract with powerful lords to prove their worth. In this family, a powerful contractor meant a rise in status for their lord, creating a symbiotic lust for power. But Crash was the exception. Born with no martial talent whatsoever, no lord chose him. He was deemed a worthless failure in front of his entire family. After that humiliation, he was kicked out of the main house and sent to this annex, a place where the family's failures are cast away and forgotten. Now he's the biggest failure in the Valheim family, looking out at a world oblivious to its fate. But he's also the only one who knows about the world's end, the apocalypse that even the Azure generation couldn't stop. Can he, a 10-year-old reject, possibly stop the world's destruction? The weight of the future presses down on him, a future filled with monsters and betrayal. He clenches his small hand into a fist, his eyes hardening with resolve. Don't be a coward. It's not about whether he can stop it. He remembers the feeling of dying, helpless and alone. I have to stop it. A manic grin spreads across his face. This time he's not a tool, he's the master of his own fate. The sound of approaching footsteps pulls him from his thoughts. The first step to preventing destruction is about to begin. An elderly man in a crisp suit enters the room. "Young master," he says with a gentle voice. "It's Ariad." Crash's eyes light up. "Ariad! the only butler of Blue Pine Hall. He's still alive at this point. But as he rushes to greet the kind old man, a dark, venomous memory from his past life surfaces. When, he asks with a chilling smile, "Are you planning to use the poison my brother gave you to kill me?" The Valheim family was famous for its martial skill, but some members were truly exceptional. With a single swing of her sword, a young girl sent a whole squad of knights flying through the air like discarded dolls. A faint blue aura surrounded her as she looked down at the fallen knights. To her, this impressive victory was just another day, nothing to get excited about. Those who watched could only stare, their mouths open in shock. She was only 15, yet she had the strength of a veteran warrior. Her very name was enough to make people feel both respect and fear. For Charlotte Valheim, a fight that others would consider the greatest challenge of their lives was utterly boring. Whispers about her talent spread quickly. People called her more than a genius. She was a prodigy seen only once in 1,000 years, the great hope for the Valheim family's future. But, as Charlotte's fame grew, so did the jealousy in Varoken Valheim's heart. He hid a deep anger that was close to boiling over. Every time someone praised Charlotte or mentioned her unique heritage, it felt like a knife twisting inside him. His pride as a son of the main family couldn't handle it. His followers tried to soothe his anger, warning him that Charlotte and her mother were too strong to fight head-on. But Varoken was already thinking of another way. If he couldn't get rid of the prodigy herself, he would go after someone he thought was weak. A cruel smile formed on his face as the plan came together. He would start with the family failure. He would start by killing Crash. That was how the terrible plan started. In the life that came before, Varoken found Ariad and took advantage of the old butler's desperation. He knew just what to say to hurt him the most. He told Ariad that his life was wasted by serving a failure like Crash. The words were a cruel poison meant to twist the butler's heart. Then he made his offer. He held out a small bottle of poison. In exchange for using it, he promised Ariad enough money to save his sick daughter's life. All it would cost was the life of one boy. Ariad was caught in a terrible choice. He had raised Crash as if he were his own son. The idea of hurting the boy felt like a betrayal of his very soul. But Varen kept pushing, his voice filled with fake pity that was more insulting than comforting. He asked the final, devastating question. Would Ariad really choose another person's child over his own daughter? For a father desperate to save his child, there was only one answer. Fear and hopelessness fought for control on Ariad's face. He had no way out. The old butler's will finally broke. Varoken had won. The day of the planned murder finally came. A simple meal was prepared, waiting for a single drop of poison, all part of a jealous brother's scheme. But when the moment came, Ariad's love for Crash was too strong. He could not go through with it. The poison never touched the boy's food. Overcome with guilt, Ariad did the unthinkable. He ate the poisoned stew himself. With his last breath, he apologized to the boy he had chosen to save. A young Crash could only watch in horror as his friend and caretaker died in his arms. The terrible memory was burned into his mind forever. Ariad had died to protect a secret, a truth that Crash would never learn in that lifetime. But this time was different. Crash had returned to the past, bringing all his memories with him. He stood before Ariad, who was still very much alive. Crash's question struck the butler with the force of a punch, asking when he planned to use the poison from Varoken. Ariad froze, completely stunned. The poison? How could the young master possibly know about the poison? All his calm and control fell apart in an instant. Crash continued, revealing that he knew all of the old butler's painful secrets, even the plan to trade his life for the life of Ariad's daughter. But seeing the old man break down, Crash stopped. He saw that he was pushing Ariad toward the same despair that had ended his life before. That was not what he wanted. He decided to try something else. Instead of blaming him, he offered a strange new choice, leaving Ariad staring at him in total confusion. Ariad had been ready for anger and tears. He had prepared himself for hatred when his terrible secret was finally revealed. But what he saw instead was a cold and thoughtful determination that he had never seen in the young master before. Crash simply turned and held out his hand, telling the butler to come with him. It was not the act of a scared child, but of someone in complete control. He led the shocked butler away from the dining room and toward the old dusty study instead. Ariad had no idea what was happening. Why were they going to the library? What could Crash possibly want in there? Crash stopped in front of a decorated wall and gave a surprising order for Ariad to cut right through it. He looked at the butler with knowing eyes, suggesting that such a task should be simple for a servant of the Valheim family. Crash knew Ariad was more than he seemed. Ariad accepted the unspoken challenge, and his entire posture changed. The frail old man disappeared. In his place stood a skilled warrior holding a huge greatsword that glowed with a powerful blue light. This was the true strength that Ariad had kept hidden all along. With one easy swing, he sliced through the stone wall as if it were made of paper. The wall fell apart, showing a dark, secret hallway hidden behind it. Even Ariad, who had cut the wall, stared in shock. He never knew this passage was here. Crash walked past him into the darkness without a hint of surprise, calmly praising him for a job well done. The boy's calm was more unsettling than any anger would have been. Ariad could only follow, his mind racing to understand. The broken boy he knew just a day ago was now a complete and terrifying mystery. They walked down the secret hallway, which was lit by glowing pearls set into the stone walls. At the end of the passage was a huge wooden door. It was wrapped in heavy chains and secured with a large, strong lock, guarding a secret that had been forgotten for a long time. Crash stared at the door, and a flash of memory crossed his eyes. He remembered this place from his previous life. Back then, he had found it too late. The library and everything inside it had been burned to ashes. But this time was different. He had arrived before the disaster. The secrets were still safe, just waiting for him to find them. Ariad offered to break the chains with his sword, but Crash told him to stop. Simple strength would not be enough to open this lock. A sly smile appeared on Crash's face as he prepared to use a power from his future. He whispered the name of the skill. His shadow twisted and grew, releasing a swarm of dark creatures. They did not break the lock, but ate it instead, their dark magic dissolving the metal and its enchantments completely. With one final crack, the lock and chains crumbled to the floor, powerless. Ariad could only stare, his mouth hanging open in pure disbelief. Crash casually pushed the broken pieces aside. He was pleased his power still worked. Ariad, on the other hand, looked like he was about to faint from shock. The butler stammered, trying to find an explanation for what he had just witnessed. The only thing that made sense was that Crash had made a deal with a powerful dark being. Crash thought to himself that at this point in his first life, he had been weak and had no such power. He decided to let Ariad believe the lie. He even told the butler he could report it to his father if he wanted, a show of confidence that left the old man speechless. Ariad remembered the sad, broken boy from the day before. The change was so sudden and extreme that it was hard to believe. He held on to the idea of a contract. It was the only logical reason for how the young master had gone from a failure to someone with such incredible power overnight. He then remembered that despite his weakness, Crash shared the same blood as the prodigy, Charlotte. Maybe this great potential had just been sleeping inside him all along. Even if he wasn't as strong as Charlotte, this new power meant that the young master was no longer a failure. He was now someone worth serving. Ariad's determination grew stronger. He felt he was seeing the beginning of whatever future Crash was trying to create. And so, he made his choice. Bowing low, he promised his complete loyalty. He would keep all of Crash's secrets until the boy's mysterious plan was complete. Crash paused for a moment to think. He was just realizing a problem with his return to the past. By changing events, he was also changing people. This Ariad was not the same man who had died from guilt in his first life. He could clearly remember the man who died full of regret, but the man in front of him now was pledging his loyalty. He briefly wondered if dealing with these changes was what made Lord Arthur go mad, but he pushed the thought away. For now, Ariad was a useful ally. As long as he could find a cure for the butler's daughter, he would have his complete loyalty. He thought of Ariad as a piece in a larger game. In this new life, he would collect every ally he could find. Now that Ariad's loyalty was his, he ignored the butler's worries and focused on what was in front of them. The large wooden doors swung open, revealing the secrets that had been locked away for years. As the doors opened, a soft, pinkish light seeped out from inside, hinting at the great power that was sleeping within. Crash's eyes shot open. He could feel it now, an energy so strong it made his skin tingle. Suddenly, a massive pillar of red, fiery energy burst from the back of the library. Even for Crash, who was used to the dark curses of the world, this raw power was shocking. This was a forbidden and ancient kind of magic. He recognized this energy. He knew of only one person in history who could command such a terrifying power. He realized the man's spellbook must be here. The fiery energy swirled around the bookshelves like a storm of lost souls and forgotten power. And there, sitting on a shelf among the old books, was a single book that glowed with a dark red light. He had found it. This secret library belonged to Blue Pine Hall. It was where the so-called failures of the Valheim family wrote down their own ways of becoming strong. They filled the books with their own special skills and memories, detailing how they gained power not from natural talent, but from pure hard work. But this library full of knowledge had been sealed away and forbidden, all because of one person. His name was Damaris Valheim. He was known as the biggest failure in the entire history of the Valheim family, but he was also the one who had turned a world-ending curse into his own incredible strength, becoming the most powerful of all. Crash now stood before that same power, ready to make a deal with the strongest and most feared member of his own family. With a wild and determined smile, he reached out to take the book left behind by the family's greatest failure. He recalls how at the height of his power, the legendary failure Damaris Valheim was challenged by the world's strongest warriors. Mages, assassins, and knights of the highest order all came to test their might against him. But even their combined power was nothing. With a demonic grin, he swatted them away like flies. No one could stop him. This was the terrifying power of extreme blood immersion, a forbidden technique that allowed him to absorb the apocalyptic curse of world erosion and wield it as his own. In his past life, Crash only found the burnt remnants of this grimoire, but this time, it's complete, and he can finally decipher its greatest secret. He remembers the agonizing pain of the curses he endured, a pain that twists the soul and drives men mad. But now, that experience is his greatest weapon. To control the destructive rampage of extreme blood immersion, he just needs to apply the same principle. He'll fight poison with poison, stealing another curse to perfectly offset and control the power. When two opposing forces clash, they create a stable, neutral state of immense energy. If he can balance the curses, he'll have a power source unlike any other. With a determined grin, he realizes he can become strong, just like the legendary hero Iris. Ariad can only watch in stunned silence, his mind still trying to process what he has seen today. With the grimoire secured, Crash gives his first official order. From today on, no one is to enter the Blue Pine Hall. That's an order. Understanding the weight of the command, the old butler leaves, his loyalty to Crash now absolute. His mind is made up. He will repay the young master's mercy, and refuse Lord Verokin's devil's bargain. From this day forward, he serves only Crash Valheim. Elsewhere, Crash's vile half-brother, Verokin, receives the news of Ariad's defiance and explodes in a storm of fury. His desk is littered with news of Charlotte's achievements, each word of praise for his half-sister feeding the bitter poison of his jealousy. We see a brief flashback to the Valheim family, where a younger Verokin and his sister Lilith look on resentfully as the matriarch holds a baby Crash. His rage stems from a deep-seated belief that his pure bloodline was usurped by Charlotte and Crash's mother. The audacity of a mere butler, a servant to a failure, defying him is the final insult. He screams at his subordinate to storm the Blue Pine Hall and drag the butler before him. But his man is hesitant. We can't enter. Ariad has sealed the entrance. Verokin is stunned. Ariad has declared the Blue Pine Hall off-limits to everyone, even the head of the family. Just as ordered, the old butler stands guard, his great sword at his side, a silent, unbreachable wall protecting his master. Verokin can barely comprehend it. That arrogant failure, he roars, his pride completely shattered. While his brother loses his mind, Crash is already deep in meditation, beginning the grueling process of mastering his new power. He focuses, pushing the dark aura through the underdeveloped channels of his young body. He clenches his fist, feeling the power coalesce. He's reached the first milestone, the entry level of an aura expert. In the world of aura mastery, there are 4 major realms: user, expert, master, and the legendary emperor. The rank of aura expert is the great wall that separates the average person from a true genius. Crash knows he's only taken the first step. His prodigy sister Charlotte, who is only 2 years older, is already on the verge of becoming an aura master. But then, a haunting vision from the future flashes in his mind. Even Charlotte, that unprecedented monster of talent, was brought to her knees, broken and defeated before the world's destruction. Staring at the memory of his fallen sister, a terrifying question forms in his mind. If even she couldn't win, how can he possibly hope to succeed? But he quickly pushes the doubt aside. He won't know unless he tries. He confronts the memory of his past self, a man shackled by curses. Before the regression, his cursed body couldn't even use aura. He was truly powerless. Now, things are different. He might not have Charlotte's natural talent, but he has something far more valuable. He has the grimoires of the Valheim failures. Decades of forbidden knowledge and hard-won techniques are now at his fingertips. A wicked grin spreads across his face. With this power, he will surpass everyone. His training is complete for now. Wreathed in a faint dark aura, he prepares to leave the secret library. The grand doors swing open with a heavy thud. Ariad is waiting for him with a towel. Young master, congratulations on reaching the expert realm. Crash casually takes the towel, unimpressed by his own achievement. Don't make a fuss over something like this. He begins to dry himself off, but then he notices the butler's expectant look. More importantly, why were you waiting here? Ariad bows respectfully, delivering news that sends a jolt through Crash. Your fiancée, Lady Bianca Hardenhearts, has arrived at Blue Pine Hall. The name hits Crash like a lightning bolt, his eyes widening in pure shock. His mind is flooded with images from his past life. Bianca Hardenhearts, the future catastrophe known as the White Demon. The terrifying mastermind who allied herself with the world's invaders, who defeated one of the 10 strongest under heaven, and who brought ruin to entire nations. For now, though, she's just a young girl sent here for a political marriage, a pawn in a game between 2 great houses. He peers out the window and sees her, a small, lonely figure with stark white hair, waiting silently at the gate. It's a mutually beneficial arrangement. The Valheim family gets to dispose of a useless failure, and Hardenheart's family gains a powerful connection. A wry smile plays on his lips. Both of us are being used by our families. But this is perfect. He had business with Bianca anyway. Her arrival is a convenient twist of fate. He recalls her tragic story. Her mother, afflicted by a world erosion curse during pregnancy, gave birth to a child tainted by the same dark energy. A girl born with the unique curse known as Snowdoll. The curse left the newborn Bianca completely emotionless, a beautiful but empty doll. Because the curse was tied to her very soul, it was incurable. She was deemed a contaminated child. unable to form a divine contract or ever reach her full potential. She was born in exchange for her mother's life. Bianca was abandoned by her own father and cast aside by her family. Crash pauses, a flicker of concern in his eyes. In the last life, their relationship was complicated. Did Bianca hate me? He wonders. But he shakes off the doubt. He needs her. More specifically, he needs her curse. For his plan to succeed, he must steal the Snowdoll curse for himself. Just as his scheming mind kicks into high gear, Ariad's voice cuts in. Young master, you can't possibly need her dressed like that. Crash smirks, his confidence returning. You're right, prepare a change of clothes. And show our guest inside. Have her wait. And so, the stage is set. The future White Demon, a quiet, stoic girl with a tragic past, is about to meet the regressed failure who holds the key to changing both their fates. The scene shifted to 5 months earlier. A much harsher Crash faced his new fiancée, his anger barely contained. He snarled at her to go home, his voice full of hatred. He accused her of only wanting the Valheim family's power, and told her to stop pretending. Yet the young Bianca Hardenhearts did not react. Her face was a calm, unreadable mask. With a loud bang, the doors of Blue Pine Hall closed, leaving her all alone in the large hallway. Inside, however, she was filled with her own anger. She had never wanted to come to this place either. She remembered her father's cold voice explaining that her family needed the Valheim's influence to survive. Her orders were clear. She was just a tool, sent to use her beauty to charm the family's youngest son. The memory faded, bringing her back to the present. Bianca now sat peacefully in the parlor, a quiet scene so different from the past. Crash had once been sure that if she had a choice, she would have been the one to reject him. But now something about the man before her was different, and for the life of her, she could not figure out what had changed. At that moment, something dawned on Crash. He let out a small, "Oh," a slightly embarrassed look on his face. He remembered she disliked very hot drinks, and felt foolish for serving the tea so warm. He made a mental note to speak with the maid. Bianca's eyes opened a little wider in surprise. She wondered how he could possibly know about her sensitivity to heat. To ease the sudden quietness, Crash suggested a walk in the garden. He mentioned the nice weather and the flowers she might not have seen in her northern home. He then turned to the old butler, Ariad, and asked for macadamia cookies to be brought to the garden. The butler bowed and agreed. As they strolled through the garden, Crash tried to make conversation, saying it was good for them to spend time together as an engaged couple. Bianca's reply was brief and polite. Crash simply laughed, brushing it aside. He teased her, saying she sounded less like his fiancée and more like she was reporting to a superior officer. She stopped walking to look at him closely. Before, he had been so rigid, his eyes sharp and cold. Today, he felt like a completely different person. Crash sighed, trying to change the subject, but Bianca was not so easily distracted. She pointed out that he knew she liked macadamia cookies, even though she had never told him. Her next question was sharp and direct, hanging in the air between them. She asked if he was truly Crash. He was completely unprepared for such a direct question. In his brief moment of panic, a small bit of his dark energy escaped, wrapping around him like a shadow. Bianca froze in place. Her body went stiff as she felt a powerful, dangerous pressure coming from him. She quickly pulled her hand back and bowed low. She apologized, insisting she had not meant to cause any offense. Crash silently cursed himself for his mistake. His memories of his younger days were blurry and unclear. He could not recall exactly how he had behaved around her in the past, but one thing was perfectly clear in his mind. The calm, emotionless look on her face was the very same one she wore on the day she died before the Arctic Sea Pavilion. He pushed the dark memory away and decided to give her a simple explanation. He told her he had recently made a contract with a god. Understanding dawned in Bianca's eyes. She realized this was why he had changed so much and offered her congratulations. Seeing his chance, Crash decided to move forward with his plan. He told her he had a proposal for her. Bianca's thoughts began to race. A proposal from him, a man who had just made a contract with a god, seemed very strange. Her calm composure finally broke as her mind leaped to the worst possible idea. She feared he was about to end their engagement. Crash quickly waved his hands, confused by her reaction. He added that he would understand if she was the one who wanted to cancel. A shadow crossed Bianca's face. She questioned why a member of the powerful Valheim family could have so little confidence in himself. She looked at him directly, her voice strong and sure. She stated firmly that she was his fiancée, and nothing would change that. Crash was shocked into silence. In his entire past life, no one had ever spoken to him with such conviction. Pushing aside the strange feeling, he tried to get back to his original topic. He made a fist, a dark energy swirling around it. He announced that with his new power, he wanted to take her, Snowdoll, curse. She whispered in disbelief, asking if he truly wanted a curse that even the greatest experts could not break. The frightening idea hit her that he meant to take it for himself. Crash confirmed that he needed the curse. He promised her any wish in return, even to end the engagement. But Bianca's mind was on a completely different path. She knew his family saw him as a failure. He must not get along with his relatives. Perhaps all that pressure had broken him down, making him want to erase his feelings completely. In her eyes, this was not about gaining power. She began to wonder if he was suffering from some kind of mental collapse. Her thoughts drifted back to something a wise mage had told her when she was a child. The mage had explained that when people reach their limit, their minds can break. This could lead them to do drastic things, or even to suddenly become unusually kind. He had warned her that these were dangerous signs of a coming breakdown, and that she must stay by the side of anyone she saw in that state. Spurred on by this memory, Bianca grabbed Crash's hand with surprising strength. Her eyes shone with a new sense of purpose as she told him he could get through this. She insisted he did not need a curse, but simply better control of his feelings. Crash could only stare back at her, completely confused. He tried to tell her she had misunderstood, but she was already making plans. She promised to visit often, perhaps even move nearby if her father allowed it. This sudden change confused him greatly. He questioned her, reminding her that he thought she disliked him and never wanted the engagement. He knew Bianca was the type to act decisively, but he had a strong feeling she was missing the point entirely. If she would not give him the curse willingly, he decided he might have to test his skills on her quietly. A dark energy started to gather in his hand. He prepared to use a skill he called Black Hood. The power swelled within him, ready to be released. But right before he could act, something strange happened. A new condition appeared in his mind. A rush of new information flooded his thoughts, forcing him to stop. The condition was ridiculous. He had to become Bianca's friend. He realized it was a double-locked curse, which was both troublesome and unusual. He quickly figured it out. Because she was born with the curse, it was now a core part of her, making it valuable and highly protected. Sending her away would only speed up her transformation. His only choice was to keep her near and find a way to meet the condition. He decided to go along with her misunderstanding for now. Taking her hands in his, he put on his most honest face and told her he was happy to see her more often. A light blush touched her cheeks. She promised to speak with her father and return soon before turning to leave. Crash watched her carriage drive off into the sunset. He figured she would be gone for a month, giving him time to study his books. His plans, however, were about to be ruined. The very next day, a huge pile of boxes arrived at the gates of Blue Pine Hall. Confused, Crash watched as a familiar carriage rolled up to the entrance. Then, a familiar voice drifted toward him on the wind. It was Bianca, standing beside all of her luggage. She announced that from that day on, she would be living with him at Blue Pine Hall. Crash's mind went completely blank. His jaw dropped as one single loud thought echoed in his head. They were going to be living together. In the soft morning light of Blue Pine Hall, a young boy named Crash slowly opened his eyes. Sleeping peacefully beside him was Bianca Hardenhearts, a little drool on her cheek. He sat up, surprised to find her there again. He worried that if anyone saw them, they would misunderstand. With a great yawn, the young hero began his day, not knowing what fate had in store. Bianca stirred, wishing him a good morning. When he questioned her about being there, she playfully turned the question back on him. Meanwhile, at the Grand Valheim estate, Crash trained without rest. A dark, swirling energy surrounded his body. Sweat dripped from his face as he pushed his young body to the very edge. Practicing skills he remembered from another life. His mind drifted back to a certain day. A familiar voice had broken his focus. It was Bianca, who arrived with surprising news that she would be living at Blue Pine Hall from now on. Crash was completely stunned. He could not believe she had already moved her things in. He wondered why her family had agreed to it so easily. It was very strange. He thought it might be because of her snow doll curse, which numbed her feelings. It would explain how a 12-year-old girl could leave her home without a tear. But in this odd situation, he saw a chance. He thought this might be a good way for them to become friends, and so, their strange life together started. They often walked in the gardens, looking like a mother hen, followed by her little chick. Summer turned to winter, and Crash continued to train every day. As the year came to an end, a new challenge appeared before him. Soon, the famous Laheln Academy would open its doors. It was a school built by great kingdoms to train heroes against a threat known as the World Erosion. In his previous life, this academy had been the training ground for the legendary Azure Generation. He remembered them clearly, standing by as their leader, Lord Arthur, was killed. The memory was still painful. He clenched his jaw in anger, thinking of how those cowards had failed. But this time would be different. A dark purple energy flared around him as he smirked. He knew all their secrets and planned to take their powers for himself once he got into the academy. He had only 1 year to prepare and needed more power. His current training was no longer enough. The magic he learned from old family books had reached its limit. He needed a new source of strength. He trained even harder. His special sword, shaped like a gear, humming with energy. He knew there was only one way to break through his limits. He had to take Bianca's snow doll curse and use a forbidden power called extreme blood immersion. Lost in these dark thoughts, he noticed Bianca waiting for him. She was always there. Since the day she arrived, she had followed him like a shadow, her face always calm and unreadable. This led to some funny moments, as Bianca seemed to take her new job of following him very seriously. But Crash kept wondering when she would finally see him as a true friend. Her trust was the key he needed to unlock his hidden power. At that moment, his butler, Ariad, approached. He held out an envelope sealed with wax for the young master. The butler announced that an invitation from the Star Sanctuary had arrived. Crash was surprised. He had not expected an invitation from the Star Sanctuary. Ariad explained it was a special party held once a year for all the young nobles in the kingdom. It was an important event for making connections, something Crash cared little about. But as he thanked his butler, a memory came back to him. In his first life, he had hidden away in Blue Pine Hall, refusing to go to the party. He could not remember much about it, only that it was a lonely time, but he did recall that a certain person would be there. And that was not all. A sudden, painful image of Ariad's daughter in trouble flashed in his mind. He knew he had to go to stop something terrible from happening to his loyal butler's family. Crash agreed to go, but before Ariad could leave, Bianca stepped forward, saying she would go with him. Later, inside the Great Hall, Crash tried to change her mind. He warned her that people at the party would say mean things about her. He added that they would talk about him as well, and suggested it might be better for her to stay home. But Bianca stood her ground. A new determination shone in her eyes as she insisted on going with him. She gave a reason that left him stunned. She said it was the duty of a fiancé to protect her partner. Crash was so surprised he could only blush in silence. Her sincere words touched his heart. For Bianca, the choice was simple. For months, Crash had treated her with a kindness she had never known. He would ask her what she wanted to eat for breakfast, a small gesture no one had ever shown her before. He would take her by the hand and lead her to the library so they could pick out a book to read together. Once, when she fell asleep outside, he had gently placed a blanket over her and whispered that he would stay by her side. A warm feeling filled her heart. She realized that no one in her own family had ever been so gentle with her. She had watched him train hard every single day, and the dislike she first felt for him had slowly disappeared. Now, looking at the boy who had shown her so much kindness, she made her decision clear. She wanted to go with him not just as his fiancé, but as herself. Crash's eyes widened, and his heart jumped. For the first time, he saw past the cursed Snowdoll, and saw the real Bianca Hardenhearts. They traveled to the Star Dragon Pavilion, a beautiful castle by the sea where the party was being held. In the carriage, Bianca fell asleep on his lap. Crash sighed, thinking about how much money it must have cost to rent such a grand castle. He thought to himself how ridiculous it all was. Nobles were supposed to be respected for protecting people from the world erosion. But instead, these nobles just wasted time and money on parties. He felt disgusted that they were called the future of the kingdom. He doubted he would meet a single respectable person at the event. They walked into the grand ballroom holding hands, ready to face the judging stares of the crowd. The gossip started right away. People whispered about Crash being the failure of his family, and about Bianca being the cursed girl he was engaged to. One noble joked to his friend not to stare, or he might get cursed too. Crash glared at them, his anger growing in the room full of fakes. But not everyone was whispering. A figure in the crowd grinned, seeing that someone interesting had finally arrived. On a red sofa sat three important young nobles, all watching Crash and Bianca. Crash knew them immediately. They were future members of the Azure generation. The first was Balak Hogma, known as the Tiger Youth, who had a cat-like face and a playful smile. Beside him was Kasagi Elfin Amelia, a serious-looking beauty with sharp red eyes. The last of the three was Annex Greaser, the Grease a good archer, a confident young man with brown hair and a smug look on his face. Crash knew this group, later called Staron's Triad, was not interested in him. They were likely looking because of his half-sister. He remembered his sister, Charlotte, in a beautiful red dress. She always seemed so powerful and proud. Her voice echoed in his mind, bragging that when she wore that dress, everyone challenged her, but no one could win. He recalled how she had called the party boring. He could still clearly see his younger self hiding from her, scared by how strong she was. He sighed. It seemed his sister had already caused a lot of trouble at this party in previous years. Suddenly, he felt a gentle pull on his sleeve. It was Bianca. She told him not to worry about what others were saying. He was touched that she was thinking of him, even when they were insulting her too. He gently patted her head to let her know he was okay. All at once, a loud voice announced a new guest. The crowd parted, and the room filled with excitement. The strangest man of all had arrived. It was the flashy alchemist, Lord Darling Danforlion. The sight of the man triggered a memory from Crash's past life. He remembered being defeated and broken, his body ravaged by lethal curses. When all hope seemed lost, a peculiar man appeared before him. The stranger studied his mangled, cursed hands with great interest. A strange idea sparked in the man's eyes. He winked and smiled, muttering to himself about combining different erosion curses to find a solution. The man leaned in too close with a wild proposal. He offered to cure Crash, but only if he agreed to be a test subject. He seized Crash's face, forcing his mouth open. The man noted that Crash was too weak to even respond. A manic grin spread across his face. He decided he would just begin the experiment without waiting for permission. Filled with horror, Crash could only let out a faint protest as the mad alchemist moved closer. This madman was Elric, a brilliant alchemist and a master swordsman. This was how he and Crash first met in that past life. Back in the present, Elric strode into the room with open arms. The crowd began to whisper, well aware of his reputation as a showman. A small smirk appeared on Crash's face. He knew exactly how much trouble this man could be. He quickly got a plate of food for Bianca and told her to wait for him. Trouble was clearly on its way. With her mouth full, Bianca simply nodded. She had no idea of the chaos that was about to erupt. It was too late. From across the grand hall, a pair of intense pink eyes had already found him. Elric rushed over, his expression shifting to one of dawning recognition as he studied the young boy, asking if he was Crash Valheim. His eyes widened as he made the connection. The boy looked just like his formidable older sister, Charlotte. Elric's eyes lit up with pure excitement. He beamed, asking if Crash was Charlotte's younger brother. He invaded Crash's personal space and playfully asked if the boy was captivated by his good looks. Crash's smile turned sly as his voice dropped to a whisper. He mentioned hearing that Elric had been looking into the world invaders. A dark energy began to swirl around Crash as he held Elric's gaze, asking if the topic interested him. Elric whispered back, his own aura turning dangerous. He called the boy cocky and warned with a sinister smile that getting his attention came with consequences. The two slipped away to a private room. A sign on the door warned others not to interrupt them. Inside the room, which was filled with racks of weapons, Elric's playful mood returned as he looked Crash over. He casually asked Crash how old he was now. Crash answered flatly that he was 13 and asked if it mattered. Grinning, Elric grabbed two swords, remarking that while Crash looked young, his attitude suggested otherwise. Crash sighed, a light sweat forming on his brow. He had the mind of an experienced veteran and wanted to get straight to the point. Elric's grin grew wider. He was ready for a fight, and he told Crash to begin while his sword hummed with energy. Without any warning, Elric threw a sword at Crash. The boy caught it just in time to block a sudden, lightning-fast strike. The sound of clashing steel echoed through the room. Their duel had officially begun. Crash shouted Elric's formal name, demanding to know what he was doing. Elric only laughed like a madman. He explained that since he was finally meeting Charlotte's brother, he had to test his skills. Crash gritted his teeth as sweat dripped from his forehead. He thought to himself what a pain this man was. They exchanged blows, their movements a blur of skilled slashes and parries that filled the entire room. But Crash had the experience of his previous life. He spotted an opening, and a blue energy flickered around his sword as he ready to counterattack. Elric was stunned by the boy's skill. He had heard that Crash was a talentless failure with no abilities. Their swords locked together in a tense struggle. Crash growled that he trained every single day. Elric's eyes widened, surprised by how much better the boy was than the rumors claimed. Deciding to end the fight, Crash looked Elric in the eyes. He offered to help with his research on neutralizing curses. The duel came to a sudden halt. Elric was completely stunned. He demanded to know what a boy like him knew about alchemy. Swinging his sword again with frantic energy, Crash dodged the attack with ease. His movements were precise and dangerous as he moved closer. He pressed his advantage, stating that Elric was trying to neutralize world erosion curses that were impossible for others to break. He finished the thought, explaining the method was to use other curses to cancel them out, all while watching Elric's face. Elric leaped back, completely shocked. He couldn't understand how this boy knew about his most secret research. Crash knew he had him. He asked if proving that theory was the key to becoming a first-rank alchemist. Elric landed, a thoughtful and almost greedy look on his face. A dark purple energy burst forth from Crash. In a low, dangerous voice, he repeated his offer to help with the research. His hand began to glow as he revealed his hidden power. He possessed a skill that could steal curses. Elric was left speechless. An aura and a skill that stole curses were impossible. He thought Crash was supposed to be a skillless failure. He could feel the immense pressure of Crash's power. If what the boy was saying was true, then everything was about to change. A slow, greedy smile spread across his face. This was perfect. He could prove both of his theories at once. He then asked what Crash wanted in return for this partnership. His expression turned playful as he teased Crash, asking if he wanted a boyfriend. Crash recoiled in disgust, his dark aura faltering as he demanded to know what nonsense he was talking about. Ignoring the strange comment, Crash explained his terms. He would be acquiring many curses and needed a potion to suppress them. For him, this was about survival and revenge, as stealing skills was not enough. He had seen it with his own eyes in his past life. Even the powerful Azure generation had failed to stop the end of the world. A failure like him had to use every method available, from potions to anything else he could find. Elric studied Crash's determined expression. He had heard the boy lost all his drive from being compared to his sister, but that was clearly no longer true. One was a stunning genius, the other a stubborn misfit. They were a strange and interesting pair of siblings. Elric began to blush, feeling flustered but also thrilled by the idea of their new partnership. He leaned in close and asked if he could ask one more thing. Already losing his patience, Crash simply asked what it was. He wanted to know if Crash planned to enroll in the new Laheln Academy. The name of the academy, the birthplace of his enemies, brought a dark, vengeful smile to Crash's face. He confirmed that he was. Elric was practically shaking with excitement, a nervous sweat breaking out on his face. Crash thought about all the skills he could steal at the academy. Thinking along the same lines, Elric shouted that it was perfect, and that he would make whatever potions Crash needed. Crash thought to himself that the man hadn't changed at all. He then said he had one more favor to ask, which piqued Elric's curiosity. Crash's expression suddenly became deadly serious. He asked Elric to make a cure for the discoloration disease. All of Elric's excitement drained away, replaced by pure confusion. He questioned if Crash understood the meaning of incurable, insisting that even he couldn't create such a cure. Crash clenched his fist, his gaze remaining firm and unwavering. He was filled with the confidence of his past life's knowledge. He simply told Elric that he could do it. Elric stared for a moment before a slow, proud smile formed on his lips. Crash's challenge had struck his pride. They sealed their new partnership with a fist bump. It was a pact between two outcasts, ready to change the world. As they were leaving, Crash turned back with a question that had been bothering him. He asked Elric if he liked his sister. Elric practically floated with joy, announcing that he adored Charlotte. Crash was genuinely confused. He asked why Elric kept mentioning empty seats and asking about boyfriends. A mischievous smile crossed Elric's face. He told Crash he was too young to understand, but that he was interested in men as well. Crash froze completely, his mind blanking as if his very soul had just left his body. Utterly traumatized, he turned and ran down the hall. Elric chased after him, calling for his future boyfriend to come back. Crash finally returned to the ballroom, feeling completely exhausted from the encounter. But his relief did not last long. He spotted a commotion on the other side of the room. His eyes narrowed. A young noble had grabbed Bianca by the arm and was trying to pull her away. Her eyes pleaded with Crash for help. In a flash of red-hot anger, Crash closed the distance instantly. His leg was a blur as he delivered a powerful kick to the noble's side. The bully was sent flying across the polished floor, taken completely by surprise by the sudden attack. He groaned in pain, clutching his side. The sudden violence left him shocked and terrified. Crash stood over the boy, his face a mask of cold, unrelenting fury. The noble held his jaw in disbelief. A 13-year-old boy had just sent him flying, but Crash was not done. He stood over the fallen boy, his voice sharp with anger. He accused the boy of trying to harm a 12-year-old girl, calling him a sick idiot for it. The crowd gasped. They were shocked by the sudden violence and Crash's harsh words. The fallen noble's reply, however, caught Crash by surprise. Filled with terror, the boy cried out that he was only following the orders of Lady Claudia. Crash looked at Bianca as his mind raced. He knew Claudia was the second princess of the Staron Kingdom. Although Bianca was from the powerful Hardenheart's family, her curse made her an outcast. He wondered why the princess, who usually ignored such matters, would specifically ask for Bianca. Something felt wrong to Crash. The situation seemed too planned and specific. He suspected someone else was behind this, working from the shadows. Memories from his past life surfaced, helping him connect pieces of the puzzle that others missed. Suddenly, a name came to his mind, bringing with it a rush of bad memories. His expression grew serious as he quietly said the name, Wood Archer Annex. Crash remembered Annex clearly. He had once pursued Crash's sister, Charlotte, only to be badly embarrassed by her. After that defeat, Annex's admiration turned dark. Unable to best Charlotte, he focused on her supposedly failed brother instead. With a sigh, Crash understood. Annex was now involving Bianca in his plans. The bully whimpered under Crash's intense stare. Crash then announced that he would go. He clarified in a cold voice that he was not going to see the princess, but Annex. The noble was confused, questioning why he would want to see Lord Annex. Crash pulled Bianca close, mocking the noble for not realizing who truly gave the orders. Taking Bianca by the hand, he turned to leave without looking back at the boy. Bianca quietly agreed, her eyes showing complete trust in him. As they walked away, Crash asked Bianca why she had refused to go with the noble. She remembered thinking that Crash would leave her, just like everyone else had. But he had not left her. He stopped and asked again why she had not followed the princess's orders. She looked at the ground, a light blush on her cheeks as she avoided his eyes. Her simple and honest answer made him pause. She said she did it because he had told her to wait. A small smile appeared on Crash's face. He gently patted her on the head and told her she did well. They reached a private lounge where an energetic person was already waiting, stretching lazily. The boy turned toward them with a big grin, happy to see they had arrived. He stepped very close to Crash, his eyes shining with excitement. Crash calmly said he was there to see Annex. The boy laughed, saying Annex told him to let Crash pass. Crash knew who he was. It was Balak Hogma, a skilled but unpredictable fighter Crash preferred to stay away from. But avoiding a confrontation seemed impossible. Balak's expression changed as he pulled out his two swords. Crash only wanted to see Annex, but Balak now blocked the way. He thought it was just like Annex to send someone to stop him. Balak grinned and challenged Crash to a fight. Crash reminded him that fighting was not allowed there. Balak argued that since he had fought Charlotte, fighting Crash should be fine too, adding that Crash looked weaker. With a wild look, Balak's energy flared around him as he prepared to attack. Crash sighed to himself. He knew Balak was incredibly strong, a true expert with his aura. Balak's sharp instincts would make him difficult to predict. Crash wanted to avoid this fight before facing his real target, but Balak's determined look showed he would not back down. Seeing no other choice, Crash agreed to the fight. In a flash, Balak lunged forward and threw a fast palm strike. But Crash used the experience from his past life to move faster. He dodged the attack and tripped Balak with his leg. Balak stumbled but showed amazing reflexes. He twisted in mid-air, turning his fall into a powerful spinning kick. Crash had already expected this move. He was no longer just a boy but a seasoned fighter ready to counter. As the kick flew toward him, Crash met it with a precise and powerful palm strike to Balak's chest. The force of the blow sent Balak flying backward. The air knocked out of him. He landed hard on the floor, his eyes wide with shock and pain, unable to move. Crash stood over his opponent without a single sign of effort. The fight had ended almost as soon as it started. Balak held his chest in pain, remarking that Crash did not hold back at all. Crash rubbed the back of his neck, reminding Balak that he was the one who started the fight. Amazingly, Balak was already trying to get up, grinning wildly and asking for another round, this time with his weapon. Crash looked at him without expression, questioning if he was even able to stand, let alone use a weapon. Balak grinned, but his confidence faded when a trickle of blood ran from his nose. His smirk disappeared as the full effect of the internal damage from Crash's hit took hold. Just like that, the strong young fighter collapsed, completely unconscious. Bianca stared in disbelief and asked Crash what he had just done. He explained that he used a secret technique called short strike, which delivered great power over a short distance. He added that it was the only special move he saved before his old home burned down in his past life. Crash clenched his fist, thinking about how that reliable move had saved him from death many times. He looked back at the unconscious Balak and decided they should go inside, as the boy would not be waking up soon. When they entered the lounge, they saw two people waiting on the balcony. One of the figures turned, calling Balak's name with a hint of surprise. It was Anix. He told Crash he was surprised that he had managed to beat Balak. Crash got straight to the point, accusing Anix of using Balak as a pawn. Crash stepped forward, stating he came in person since Anix had used the princess to draw him out. A slow smile formed on Anix's face. He was curious how Crash figured it out, noting he was different from the rumors. Crash smirked, admitting the rumor about him being a failure was true, but he declared that if he defeated Anix, the rumors would change. A dark, purple energy flared around Crash. His hand glowed as he shouted that he would take Anix's skill for himself. Crash stares him down, his mind racing. This isn't just a random noble, this is Anix Greiser, a venomous ghost from his past life. The memories come rushing back. In his previous timeline, they were both part of the elite, Azure generation, but their relationship was anything but friendly. Crash remembers, he only stayed close to me because I was useful, and the reason Anix found him useful becomes terrifyingly clear. In a disastrous mission, Anix sacrifices their entire team, callously pushing a future, Crash off a towering cliff to cover his own tracks. His future self screams, "Damn it," watching his comrades fall into the abyss below. He scrambles for a handhold, desperately calling out to the one person he thought was an ally. "Anix, I know you're there, help me." But Anix just watches, his expression cold and calculating. "If people found out it was my fault we walked into a trap," he mutters to himself, "I'd lose my standing in the Azure generation." Shock turns to pure horror as Crash realizes the depth of Anix's betrayal. This was never a mistake, it was a calculated sacrifice. Anix's true, monstrous nature is revealed. "But if I'm the one and only survivor," he whispers with a chilling smile, "then no one will ever know the truth." Desperate, Crash argues, "Like hell, I'll let that happen. You'll be expelled for sure if this comes out." The final nail in the coffin. Anix, standing over the chaos he created, seals Crash's fate. "Don't worry, I'll just blame it all on you. Everyone hates you anyway, so it'll blow over quickly." And just like that, he got away with it, his reputation intact while Crash's was destroyed. Crash's blood boils. This man, this snake, used him, betrayed him, and left him for dead. All for status and his twisted obsession with Charlotte. He remembers his younger self's furious scream. "You only ever hung around me to get close to Charlotte. And because you couldn't stop thinking about her wedding, this happened." Anix's face in the memory contorts with pure contempt. "That's why I can't stand you," he spits. The insults cut deep. "You have no skill, but you're always quick to twist people's words." Anix walks away from the cliff's edge without a hint of remorse. "Once Charlotte's married, this thing between us is over anyway." He looks back, his eyes glinting with a gleefully demonic grin. "I'm sure she'll have a beautiful ceremony, even if it feels like a funeral to me." His strength fails him and his grip slips. Is this really how it all ends? His own terrified eye reflects his long fall into darkness. But then, a hand catches him. A mysterious man with long blonde hair and red eyes. It was Lord Arthur, the man who would become his greatest enemy. Crash clicks his tongue, the bitter memories fueling the fire in his eyes. That was the start of all my misfortune. Back in the present, Anix is taken aback by the palpable killing intent radiating from Crash. This isn't the same weak, pathetic boy he remembers. Still, Anix forces a smug grin, trying to get under his skin. But now? "Crash, you even talk and look just like Charlotte." The comparison snaps something inside Crash. He glares, his eyes burning with fury. Standing protectively in front of Bianca, Crash's voice is dangerously low. "Hey, don't you dare say my sister's name so casually." His dark aura begins to swirl violently around him. "You think I'm like her? Maybe we look alike, but when it comes to temperament, pick a fight with me, and you'll see the difference." Annex just smirks, unimpressed by the display. A costly mistake. With a burst of speed, Crash lunges forward, kicking off a thick, gnarled root that Annex instantly summons from the ground to block him. He twists gracefully in midair, using the branch as a springboard to launch himself directly at his foe. Annex watches, his arms crossed, as Crash launches a devastating kick right to his face. The impact sends a shockwave through the air, but Annex manages to block the attack, the wooden branch taking the brunt of the force. The roots grabs the Crash ankle and swings him around in the air. Annex sends a flurry of sharpened wooden tendrils right at him, each one aimed to impale. But Crash lands safely, leaving Annex's attacks to shatter the marble floor around him. He smirks, completely unfazed, still as troublesome as ever. Annex sneers, his own powerful green aura flaring to life as dozens of wooden roots snake around him. "Is that all you've got? You might as well use a weapon." An info box pops up, explaining his power. The Greiser family's secret technique, Wood Heaven Style. It's a unique ability that strengthens and controls plant life through aura. Combined with his innate recovery skill, Annex can multiply the plants at an alarming rate, pushing the technique to its absolute limit. "Use the weapon, huh?" Crash says, a glint in his eye. He stoops down and picks up a simple, broken branch from the debris. He grins, a plan forming in his mind. "Fine then. I'll fight you using your plants." Annex's eye twitches in annoyance at the mockery. "Oh yeah? Then try blocking this next strike with one of those branches." He unleashes a deadly storm of wooden spikes, each one flying faster than a speeding arrow. But Crash moves like a phantom, weaving through the lethal barrage with the simple stick, deflecting each spike with flawless precision. Annex stares in utter disbelief. He dodged? He can't comprehend it. Maybe Charlotte could have done that, but you're just a failure. As Crash's focus intensifies, the faint, spectral image of a beautiful, long-haired blue woman appears behind him. Annex scoffs. What's next? Mind's eye or something, completely unaware of the true power awakening before him. A confident, almost predatory smirk plays on Crash's lips. "You're my natural enemy, Annex. I've seen your abilities enough times before the regression to know your every move." He has decades of combat data against this man. He darts forward, closing the distance in an instant, his voice a low taunt. "Still thinking about Charlotte?" The taunt hits its mark. Annex's face darkens with rage. "You sure you want to push your luck like this?" His green aura explodes outwards, the raw power of nature itself bending to his will and lashing out violently. The entire balcony begins to tremble and crack under the immense pressure of his unleashed power. "Watch your mouth when you speak to me, Crash," he roars, as a colossal, monstrous figure begins to rise from the ground behind him. With a final, dramatic flourish, he unleashes his ultimate trump card. Wood Heaven Style, 5th Form Wooden Titan. The massive golem, with a terrifying, jagged grin carved into its body, towers over the battlefield, ready to crush anything in its path. From the nearby doorway, Kasagi screams in panic, "Lord Annex, no, stop!" If that hits Crash directly, Crash simply stands his ground, looking up at the monstrosity with an unnervingly calm expression. "You'll kill him," but her words are lost in the roar as the Titan's gigantic fist comes crashing down. In the face of certain death, Crash closes his eyes, completely serene, his mind traveling elsewhere. His thoughts drift back to the secret library of Blue Pine Hall. He recalls a thin, dusty grimoire written by an ancestor who simply swung his sword every single day until he was 80. This ancestor wasn't a genius or a chosen one, just an ordinary man who achieved mastery through endless, dedicated practice. His final notes weren't about a complex technique, but about a state of mind. A unity between self and blade, a realm of power unreachable by skill alone. Crash, who has been pushed to the brink of death time and time again by his curses, understands this secret on a fundamental level. He channels his aura into the simple branch. It begins to glow with a celestial blue light, humming with impossible energy. The sword becomes me, he thinks, and I become the sword. As the Titan's fist descends, a brilliant pillar of light erupts upwards from the branch, slicing the monster clean in two. The immense wooden golem shatters into a million pieces, the shockwave of pure power blasting Annex off his feet. Bianca and Kasagi can only stare, their minds reeling in absolute awe and disbelief at the sheer destructive power they just witnessed. Annex lands hard on the cold marble, his eyes wide with a mixture of shock and terror. The 5 failure just obliterated his ultimate technique with a broken stick. He looks up through the settling dust, his face a mask of pure fear as a figure emerges from the light. It's Crash, standing over him, completely unharmed. "Hey, don't ever get cocky with me again." Crash lets the stick drop to the ground with a soft thud, the light fading from it. "Got it?" Annex lies broken on the balcony floor, his ultimate technique, his pride, shattered into a million pieces by the very failure he looked down on. But the victory came at a cost. Crash stumbles, panting heavily. Pushing his body and aura to its absolute limit has left him completely drained. He thinks to himself, I was planning to hold back to make it easier to steal his skill, but the memories of Annex's betrayal were too strong. But I went all out with that last strike, now I can barely move. His legs give out, trembling uncontrollably. His body has completely shut down from the exertion. Just as he's about to collapse, two figures rush to his side. It's the ever-stoic Bianca and his new hyperactive friend, Elric. Bianca catches him and hugs him so tightly that his body begins to convulse violently. Elric, for once looking serious, sees the danger. At this rate, he'll die, he shouts, stepping in. Leave him to me, please. With surprising gentleness, the dual-wielding swordsman hoists Crash's limp body onto his shoulder, taking charge of the situation. As Elric carries him back to the Grand Hall, the whispers are immediate. The useless son of Valheim just defeated the Klein, Wood Archer, Annex Greiser. The rumor mill is on fire. Elric glances down at the unconscious boy on his shoulder, a bead of sweat on his temple. The kid is full of surprises. He can't help but smile. Either he's bold or just reckless, he thinks. Either way, when he wakes up, he'll be famous. But a more serious thought crosses his mind. There was something unsettling about the aftermath of the fight. He recalls the look of pure, unadulterated shock and despair on Annex's face. That expression, it bothers me. I've got a bad feeling he's planning something. As they leave the Star Sanctuary under the full moon, Elric makes a silent promise to his new friend. Hey boy, don't you dare die before you help with my research, okay? A week passes. Back at the Valheim estate, Crash is anything but idle. He's pushing himself harder than ever, his training intense and relentless. The courtyard is a testament to his brutal regimen, littered with the shattered remains of his training logs. He's preparing for the wars to come. He recalls the ride home, completely unconscious in Bianca's care. The final sword strike was powerful, but it left him vulnerable, and he hates that. He grits his teeth in frustration. If he hadn't passed out, he could have begun the prep work to steal Annex's recovery, skill, a vital piece of his future plans. But there's no time for regret, only for preparation. His gaze is firm, his resolve unshaken. Crash knows there are two ways to steal a skill with his Black Hood ability. The first is the standard method, unlocking the target's internal lock. But there's a second, more psychological method, one that involves utterly breaking your opponent's spirit and making them doubt the value of their own power. This was his plan for Annex all along. By crushing him in a duel where Annex had every advantage, he'd plant a seed of doubt that would fester and grow, and it worked perfectly. The moment his simple branch obliterated the wooden titan, Annex's entire worldview began to crumble. Now, every time Annex thinks of his family's secret arts, he'll remember his humiliating defeat at the hands of the failure. His confidence will erode, making his skill ripe for the taking. With his long-term plan in motion, Crash picks up his gear-like sword. It'll take time, he thinks, but eventually, his skill recovery will be mine. He has 1 year before he's set to attend Lahelm Academy. 1 year to devote every waking moment to training, to surpass the geniuses who once towered over him. But his training is interrupted by his butler. Lord Crash, he announces with a bow, Lord Verokin has arrived at Blue Pine Hall. Outside, Crash's half-brother, Verokin Valheim, stands with a cold, imposing presence. His unannounced visit can only mean trouble. Crash lets out a sigh. He'd already refused his brother's messages twice. It seems Verokin's patience has finally run out. Flopping onto a nearby chaise lounge, exhausted from training, he gives the order. No helping it now, let him in. As he waits, Bianca approaches, holding a bowl of water for him. He's about to thank her, but she leans in close, wrinkling her nose. What's wrong? He asks. Her reply is blunt. You smell sweaty. Crash is immediately flustered, quickly trying to sniff his own training shirt. Do I? He mutters, caught completely off guard. He wonders if he should freshen up before meeting his notoriously fastidious brother. Bianca's chibi head pops up, silently agreeing, but he decides against it. Nah, I'll probably be moving again anyway. Bianca doesn't miss a beat. Then please, keep some distance. Crash is stunned by her sudden boldness, a playful spark in his eyes. He smirks, getting up from the couch. Huh? Giving orders to your fiancé now? You've grown bold, Bianca. Their dynamic is visualized as two adorable penguins. A big, intimidating Crash towering over a tiny, unbothered Bianca. Sensing his playful mood, Bianca makes a run for it, clutching the book. Think you can get away from me? Crash yells, giving chase. The Grand Hall echoes with a rare sound. Crash's laughter as he chases her. She's so stubborn sometimes, he thinks fondly. Yet that's part of her strength. This carefree moment makes him pause. He thinks of the grim figures from his past life, like the mysterious hooded blonde. They would be staring at him with cold, disapproving eyes, seeing this moment of levity as a sign of weakness. A voice from his memories echoes in his mind, sharp and critical. It's Lord Arthur. Crash. Getting soft already? You think you can stop the world's destruction acting like this? The memory is a stark reminder of the stakes, of the hero Arthur pretended to be. His thoughts are filled with his nemesis. For all his evil, Arthur was, until the very end, a vigilant and powerful hero. A wall crash must one day overcome. He wonders what Arthur is up to now, just as Varokin enters the room. Unseen, Varokin watches them with a sneer, flirting with his fiancée, I bet. How fitting. Varokin Valheim, the third son of the family, steps forward, his cold blue eyes locking onto Crash. But the reaction he expects doesn't come. The old Crash would have flinched, avoided his gaze, and cowered in fear. This new Crash, however, stands his ground, band-aid on his cheek, looking straight back at him with an unnerving, defiant confidence. Varokin gets straight to the point, his voice laced with disbelief. So the rumor that you beat Anix was true? He then asks why he's visiting, his tone dripping with condescension. Crash's eyes narrow. His brother's arrogance is as grating as he remembers. But this time, he's not intimidated. With a disarmingly cheerful smile, Crash mentions the Lahelny Academy entrance exams, which will be based on results, not status. You better start preparing too, brother, he says, turning Varokin's condescension right back at him. Varokin is speechless, his face contorting in a mask of pure rage. The failure is mocking him. Him! A pure-blooded Valheim. His fury manifests as a spectral demonic aura. He seethes, boasting that the Valheim name is so powerful even the strongest empire fears it. Behind him, the vision of the demonic entity and the spectral woman, a twisted representation of his obsession with their sister Charlotte, swirls menacingly. He spits, "You're telling someone like me to study for an exam? Don't get arrogant over beating a guy like Anix." He dismisses Crash's victory with a wave of his hand. Crash just keeps smiling. I imagine so. The calm, simple agreement infuriates Varokin even more than a direct insult would have. Varokin struggles to regain his composure, trying to understand this new, defiant attitude. What's that tone supposed to mean? Changing tactics, he turns to the window, his voice turning dangerously smooth. Actually, I came here today to deliver an order. Crash's expression instantly hardens. Varokin is ordering him on a mission to the Garrelak Mountains, a place known for its deadly erosion events. He protests that such missions aren't mandatory until they turn 15, but Varokin just grins sadistically. Don't worry, I'll be your guardian on this one. It's a trap. A test to gauge his strength. Varokin wants to see the power that beat Anix for himself, likely hoping Crash will fail or die in the process. But Crash meets his gaze, a smirk of his own playing on his lips. He clenches his fist. Fine, I'll go, he says, his voice steady. I'm more used to fighting erosion than living peacefully anyway. As Crash prepares to leave, Bianca asks where he's going. He tells her he's off to deal with the erosion problem and sternly warns her not to follow. Bianca looks on with a puzzled expression. Logically speaking, she says aloud, sending a 13-year-old to handle an erosion event is absurd. Her simple, truthful statement makes Varokin's face flush with anger. He glares at her, hissing, "You cursed snow girl." Before he can say another word, Crash moves, positioning himself between Varokin and Bianca. "She's my fiancée," he declares, his voice low and protective. He looks his brother dead in the eye, a mocking tone in his voice. "Surely my kind brother wouldn't take a 12-year-old's word seriously, are you?" The challenge is laid bare. Varokin grits his teeth, his entire body trembling with suppressed rage. With a final, disgusted HMPH, he turns and storms away. Crash watches him go, a silent victory. For the first time, he hasn't just endured his brother's presence, he's dominated it. He turns back to Bianca, his expression softening instantly. With a warm smile, he reaches out and affectionately pats her on the head. "Well done, Bianca." She looks up, a little surprised, but says nothing. Then she gently adds, "Just don't faint again, all right?" He vows before turning away, a promise he intends to keep up. I'll be back. Our story dives into one of the world's most dangerous phenomena, world erosion. It's a terrifying event where the world is literally invaded by another, causing bizarre and deadly creatures to manifest. Other times, the very environment begins to twist and corrupt, turning familiar landscapes into alien death traps. He joined a purification team sent to the Garrelak Mountains, where a rank 3 erosion has transformed the land into a dark, foreboding swamp. Among them is Crash Valheim, forced onto this mission by his scheming brother Varokin. The team discusses their plan, neutralize the core creature to stop the spread. The knights seem confident. A rank 3 erosion should be manageable for an intermediate level squad. After all, they have an advanced expert leading them, Varokin Valheim. Varokin approaches Crash, the youngest member of the group, by far. Taking off his mask, he tells the rookie he was brought along to gain some real field experience. Crash plays the part of the eager student perfectly, giving a cheerful salute and calling him brother. But beneath the mask, his thoughts are ice cold. Experience? You have no idea who you're talking to. He's not here for experience. He's here to test a forbidden technique from his ancestors, grimoires, a method to control his own rampaging power. As they advance, the team easily cuts through the first wave of grotesque insectoid monsters. But the swarm is endless, and the sheer numbers start to overwhelm the seasoned knights. While the others panic, Crash stands unshaken, calmly instructing them to maintain their auras to nullify the monsters' poisonous bites. His combat knowledge and impossibly calm demeanor leave the knights speechless. One of them asks in awe if he's ever fought erosion before. Crash coolly replies that he's only 13. This is his first time. His answer only deepens Varokin's shock. How could the family's failure be so composed in this hellscape? Varokin flashes back to his own first mission, a traumatic memory of being battered and broken, his pride shattered. He thinks, "This kid is giving advice to veterans. He's nothing like I was." Looking up with a faint smile, Crash thinks to himself, "Don't you dare compare me to you." The revelation sends Varokin into a spiral of rage and jealousy, his teeth grinding in frustration. His mind is consumed by a single, terrifying thought. What if he surpasses me? What if I become the failure? He picks up his sword, now glowing with blue, and slices multiple insectoid monsters. Varokin is now out of breath. After fighting for some time, Crash quickly turns to face him, his senses screaming that they're getting close to the core creature. The ground itself seems to thrum with a sinister, bloody energy. Varokin, noting that the only thing left nearby is the core itself. Looks like it would be easy, but Crash knows better. He warns the team that any creature capable of sustaining a rank 3 erosion alone is a serious threat. His chilling assessment sends a wave of terror through the already shaken knights. Varokin struggles to his feet, shouting at his men not to lose their nerve over a kid's words. But Crash isn't paying attention to them anymore. He's here for one thing, and one thing only. He focuses his mind, pushing his senses to their limit. Thanks to his extreme blood immersion training, he can now literally see the raw, chaotic energy of the erosion. He steels himself for the most reckless plan imaginable. He's going to absorb it. The moment the toxic energy enters his body, he's racked with pain. His vision blurs as his body violently rejects the foreign power. He collapses to his knees, vomiting blood onto the corrupted soil. The team rushes to his side, but Crash waves them off, claiming he just stumbled. But he can't hide the truth as he coughs more blood into his glove. The erosion energy is a deadly poison. He clenches his fist, refusing to yield. This is what I trained for. He follows the grimoire's instructions, beginning the dangerous process of mixing his own aura with the erosion's energy. It's like trying to merge a pure river with a tide of acid, an impossible process that threatens to tear him apart. The power surges through him, his eyes glowing red as the feeling of pure, unadulterated rampage begins to take over. He staggers back, his body shaking uncontrollably. His hands are covered in his own blood. Any normal person would have gone completely mad by now. But he has an ace up his sleeve. It's time to unleash the secret technique. He remembers the tale of his blindfolded ancestor, who found the secret library of failures. Unable to read the forbidden arts, the ancestor resealed the library but left a single grimoire behind so his descendants wouldn't be trapped in ignorance. And the secret art contained within that book was a technique that grants its user a state of hypersensory perception, a power known only as the sixth sense. Though he can only extend its reach to his fingertips for now, it's enough to perceive the world around him with perfect clarity, and more importantly, to seize control of the rampaging energy within him. The chaotic storm inside him begins to subside. He's done it, he's stabilized the rampage. Wiping the blood from his lips, he knows this is only a temporary fix. He'll still need Bianca's power for a permanent solution, but this is a massive leap forward. A grin of pure triumph spreads across his face. He's reached a whole new level. But his victory is cut short, as his newly awakened sixth sense detects an immense and horrifying presence. He looks up, his eyes wide with a mix of shock and excitement. What is that? Before him, a grotesque pulsating mass of red flesh takes shape, with a disturbingly calm human face staring at him from its appendage. This is the core creature they've been searching for, but its calm facade shatters in an instant as its eyes snap open, glowing with a malevolent red light. The flesh erupts outwards, twisting and contorting into a true monstrosity. Its body becomes a nightmare of screaming skulls and sinew, with a giant lion-like head and a gaping maw. The beast lets out a soul-shaking roar, its immense power washing over the terrified knights. Even Varokin is paralyzed with fear, staring up at the monster. This is no simple core. This is the thousand-faced demon, a terrifying 3-star monster. Varokin rallies his men. His body erupts in a blazing inferno, the sheer heat warping the air around him. Varokin is wielding his signature fire magic, Ignis. The other knights stare in awe at the raw, beautiful destruction. Lord Varokin's power is legendary, but for Crash, this sight brings back nothing but cold, bitter memories. He's thrown into a traumatic flashback, to a time when he was small and weak, and Varokin was a cruel, sadistic tormentor. He can still feel the searing pain of Ignis burning his arm as his brother taunted him for being trash. In the past, Varokin was completely unhinged, a monster driven by rage and a lust for power. But Crash smirks, hoping nothing has changed. A sinister purple energy gathers around him. This time, he has power of his own. Before their family drama can unfold, the thousand-faced demon makes its move. It unleashes a grotesque, disembodied hand, which contorts in agony as it casts a powerful spell. Tendrils of dark magic lash out, striking the knights. One screams in horror as he feels a curse erasing his very face from existence. The rookies panic, realizing even the veteran knights are being overwhelmed by the monster's 8 swirling arms of flesh. But Verokin just grins. This is his stage. With a battle cry, he charges headfirst into the chaos. He becomes a whirlwind of fire, his flaming sword carving through the demon's grotesque body. The demon's flesh sizzles and burns under the relentless assault of his Ignis technique. One of the creature's limbs is completely incinerated in a massive explosion of flame. Verokin lands, his body still wreathed in fire. "Don't give up," he roars. "I'll create an opening." His men are inspired, their fear replaced by awe. As expected of Lord Verokin, follow his lead! With their morale restored, the knights charge forward, following their fiery commander into battle. Verokin smirks under his mask. He glances back, fully expecting to see his failure of a brother watching in terror. But he's gone. Did the pathetic weakling get himself killed already? Verokin scans the battlefield, confused. Then he spots him. Crash is perched on a rock, completely unharmed, watching the battle with an unnerving calm. Verokin realizes with a jolt that Crash isn't looking at him at all. His eyes are fixed solely on the demon, as if analyzing its every move. Ignoring the strange feeling in his gut, Verokin refocuses on the enemy, charging in for another strike. His flaming blade slices deep into the demon's flesh, but this time, he notices something deeply unsettling. From the countless mask-like faces embedded in the monster, black tears begin to stream down like blood. The air grows heavy as each face opens its mouth in a silent, agonizing scream. Verokin's instincts scream at him that this is bad. Really bad. Suddenly, the demon unleashes a crushing wave of pressure, sending Verokin flying backwards. Its body begins to morph and writhe, multiple eyes snapping open as its dark power skyrockets. Verokin lands hard, the sheer force of the monster's aura making it hard to breathe. He feels an impossible pressure weighing him down. He grits his teeth. We have to kill it before it gets worse. Everyone attack together. He leads the charge once more, his blade glowing with intense heat. But as his attack connects, it fizzles out, doing no damage. The demon's dark aura is nullifying their attacks. He tries again, but his flames are snuffed out by the oppressive darkness. It's not working. Frustrated, he turns to his men. "You call yourselves Valheim Knights and you cower at this? Strike again before it transforms any further." But his men don't move. They stand completely still, like statues, their faces frozen in pure terror. Verokin stares in disbelief. What's happening now? He feels a cold dread creep up his spine. "The thousand-faced demon's curse?" he mutters, his eyes wide with horror. He realizes the horrifying truth. They didn't even touch it. The curse was an area of effect attack. He tries to move his own body, but he can't. He's paralyzed. He looks down at his hand, which is already starting to turn to stone. As the demon's true monstrous form is revealed, Verokin understands. They were doomed from the start. The curse spreads through the swamp, and Verokin is pulled under the corrupted water. The poison seeps into his body, paralyzing him. The world darkens as rain begins to fall. He struggles, but his body won't respond. "It's killing me." Panic floods his mind. "I'm gonna die!" As his consciousness fades, the demon's hand, wreathed in a sinister purple aura, descends upon him from the dark water. He can't move. He can only watch as death approaches. Why is this happening to me? Suddenly, the beautiful, sad face of the blue-haired spirit appears behind him in the rain. A cruel voice, one from his deepest trauma, echoes in his head. "Because you're pathetic, that's why. Your little sister surpassed you when you were 3 years younger. You ran like a coward and let everyone die. That's why you'll die like the failure you are." Meanwhile, the demon's massive claws descend upon the Verokin. He can only watch in terror, unable to move, unable to even scream. He loses consciousness. Later, we see a blur of motion cuts through the rain. Crash carrying the injured Verokin on his back. Verokin slowly comes to, his body battered and bruised. "You're..." Crash turns his head, a bright, cheerful, and utterly terrifying smile on his face. "Brother, you're awake," Crash says. "You survived." He sets Verokin down, explaining that he pulled him out of the swamp after the demon's attack. Verokin struggles to his feet, his pride shattered. He can't even use his aura. Crash looks at him with fake concern. "Are you sure you don't need my help?" The question enrages Verokin. "I don't need help from a fool like you," he snarls, gritting his teeth in humiliation. He tries to raise his sword, but his body trembles with exhaustion. He's completely spent. Suddenly, he freezes, sensing the demon's presence nearby. "How far are we from the site?" he asks, his voice shaking. Crash points to a pulsating red light in the distance. The erosion field has closed them off. There's no escape. The terrifying reality sinks in. They can't leave unless they kill the thousand-faced demon. Verokin slams his fist into the ground, screaming in frustration. "Damn it!" Seeing his proud brother completely broken, Crash makes his move. "Brother, actually, I have an ultimate technique. He leans in, a glimmer in his eye, one that Lady Charlotte taught me herself. At the mention of their genius sister, Verikan's mind flashes to a rare memory. Charlotte showing affection to the spiky-haired boy, her brother Crash. Verikan looks up, a sliver of hope in his eyes. You think that technique can defeat the thousand-faced demon? Crash nods. Yes. If I'm gonna die here anyway, I'd rather try. He extends a hand to his kneeling brother. I understand why you don't trust me. But brother, you do trust in Charlotte's strength, don't you? As he speaks, a horrifying spectral image of an upside-down woman with Charlotte's face appears behind him, a vision only Verikan can see. He forces out a single word. Charlotte's a genius, after all. Verikan looks down at his arm, now almost completely turned to stone. He has no choice but to trust the failure he's always tormented. Crash's face is cast in shadow, only a chilling, confident smirk visible. Trapped behind enemy lines with his sadistic brother, Crash puts his master plan into motion. The thousand-faced demon is approaching. His brother Verikan is battered, and his pride is shattered. The stage is perfectly set. Crash asks for his brother's power one last time. Weak and desperate, Verikan summons the last embers of his signature fire magic, Ignis. With a cold, determined gaze, Crash declares, "Then, let's begin." He takes a stance in the pouring rain, ready to deliver the final act of this charade. Suddenly, Crash's body explodes with a serene, brilliant blue aura. He raises his unique, gear-like sword, the power swirling around him. He closes his eyes, focusing his energy with an intensity that seems almost holy. Verikan can only stare, his mind reeling. What is this power? He's never seen an aura so impossibly clear and pure before. The blue energy gracefully wraps around his blade, humming with immense, controlled power. Verikan's eye widens in disbelief. He was told Crash would combine their powers, but he never imagined this level of mastery. This is the technique their genius sister Charlotte taught him? The aura is flawless. His heart pounds in his chest. The aura I could never master. How is he able to wield it? The first seeds of doubt are sown. Crash turns to him, his expression calm, but demanding. Brother Verikan, please, use Ignis. Hesitantly, Verikan offers his flame. He has no choice but to trust the family failure. The orange flame of Ignis merges with the pure blue aura, swirling together on Crash's sword. But then we see Crash's sword burning with the fury of a dying star. The sheer force of this flame is on a completely different level. A true master of fire. Verikan watches this and the terrible truth dawns on him. That flame, it burns even stronger than mine. His entire world comes crashing down. He, Lord Verikan, the master of Ignis, is inferior. His eyes reflect the blinding power of another, and in that instant, his pride shatters into a million pieces. He realizes with dawning horror that this sword, this perfect flame, could actually slay the nigh-invincible thousand-faced demon in an instant. Crash charges forward, a living comet of destruction. He effortlessly carves through the demon's grotesque flesh, a beautiful and terrifying display of power. With a single cataclysmic strike, the monster is obliterated in a pillar of fire and gore. Verikan's face twists into a mask of pure, unadulterated despair. His greatest power is nothing but a pale imitation. Crash stands victorious. As the flames die down, the battlefield now cleansed. As the illusion fades, a peaceful stream flows where the corrupted swamp once was. The sun breaks through the clouds. The battle is over. The battle is over. The failure has proven his worth. And Crash stands tall. Verikan snaps. Just like that. Over so easily? His mind breaks, leaving only rage and humiliation. He grips his sword, his knuckles white. His face contorts in a snarl of pure hatred. If he can't be the strongest, then no one can. Then die! He lunges at his brother. But Crash easily parries the desperate attack. Verikan's eyes go wide with shock. His blade is stopped cold. His Ignis sputters and dies, neutralized by a sinister purple energy. Why can't I use Ignis? Crash's face breaks into a chilling, psychotic grin. Thanks, Verikan, for never changing. The trap has been sprung. A system window reveals the conditions to steal Verikan's power have all been met. First, he had to willingly hand over his Ignis. Second, he had to believe his opponent could wield it better than him. And finally, the complete and utter collapse of his pride. Checkmate. Wreathed in the dark power of Blackhood, Crash strikes with his sword, claiming his prize. Verikan, I used to want to get along with you. He's thrown back to a memory of his childhood, a small Crash crawling on the floor, scorned by his older brother. With a final, brutal act of vengeance, he shoves the pommel of his sword into his brother's mouth, silencing him for good. I held on to a faint hope that you might finally acknowledge me, Crash thinks, his eyes devoid of emotion. He stares at his brother's gurgling, burned face. Hurts, doesn't it? Verikan struggles, kicking his legs. Crash stands alone on the battlefield. The motion, Failure, who has finally surpassed his brother. He looks up at the sky, his purple aura fading, a single tear of what might be relief or sorrow, tracing a path through the grime on his face. Back at the Valheim main estate, the official story has already been written. A body under a sheet is presented as the hero, Lord Varoken. A funeral is held. Servants weep for their fallen master, who they believe sacrificed himself for his family. One servant cries out in anguish, "What does that mean? Only the failure survived?" But Valheim's head butler quickly silences him. "Watch your tongue. Lord Varoken died protecting his brother. Honor that sacrifice." Crash enters the hall, playing the part of the stoic, traumatized survivor perfectly. Internally, however, his mind is racing. They believe the testimony, so I don't need to worry about suspicion. Thanks to Varoken, his mission was a resounding success. He's fully adapted to extreme blood immersion, his sixth sense is under control, and he's gained a new, terrifying power. By combining the stolen Ignis with the essence of world erosion, he has created the power of Black Flame. He smirks. The flames are more powerful than he expected. A perfect trump card. With his power consolidated, he moves on to the next problem. He knocks on a grand set of doors. He opens them, knowing what lies beyond is another piece of the puzzle. He knows the truth. The world erosion is the work of a world invader, a being that slumbers in endless dreams and observes reality through its servants. He enters the room and is greeted by a beautiful, confident woman. It's Sapphira, a fourth-class investigator for the Erosion Survey Bureau. "You came, Lord Crash. We've been expecting you." Crash notices the black star at the neck of the Sapphira. Crash puts on a cocky, cheerful facade. To think we'd meet again so soon. But his mind is elsewhere. "Hey, Undying," he thinks, addressing the entity he knows she is. "I want to make a deal with you." He points at her with a confident smirk. "I'll erase your immortality for you." For a split second, her human mask drops. A sinister, fanged smile spreads across her face. Her eyes glow with crimson light. She is one of them, and she asks the one question that changes everything. "Tell me, are you the regressor?" The scene shifts to a grim flashback, revealing a chained, red-haired man. This is the Undying Crimson Garden August. Crash recalls his first life. Under Arthur's command, he tried to steal this man's immortality, but the attempt ended in absolute failure. Arthur and his companions discuss the aftermath. With the Undying weakened, he can no longer control his vast armies of servants. Mary expresses pity, noting that August's true body was cursed and unable to move, forcing him to act through his underlings. But Sigrun Afania is having none of it. She snaps back, reminding Mary of the hell he put them through by raising the Erosion Zone ranks. "Don't act all righteous now," she scolds, her patience worn thin by the carnage they've witnessed. Lord Arthur himself watches the exchange, a look of disappointment on his face. The mission was a failure. "It's a shame," he thinks, his crimson eyes reflecting the smoldering ruins. "You couldn't steal his immortality after all." The memory focuses on a younger, tattered version of Crash, his runic tattoos already on display. He just laughs, exhausted and defeated. "Yeah, true enough," he admits. Even if he were reborn, stealing that power was impossible, because the unlock condition was absurd. To steal from the Undying, he had to become stronger than the Undying. A perfect, unbreakable lock. Back in the present, Sapphira asks, "Tell me, are you the regressor?" Crash doesn't even flinch. "A regressor, huh? What makes you think I'm one?" She sneers. "The moment a mere child dares to propose a deal to someone like me, you make it obvious. Only a regressor would dare. You're trapped in an endless time loop," she scoffs. "Yet you claim you can kill one who transcends time itself? Don't make me laugh." It's no lie. Crash's eyes glow with a familiar purple energy as a monstrous, fanged mouth forms on his hand. This is Blackhood. Savage tendrils of darkness erupt from his body, lashing out with terrifying speed. The power slams into the immortal being, its dark energy, a stark contrast to her crimson aura. "My skill," Crash declares, his voice laced with cold confidence, "can even steal your immortality." But instead of fear, a look of ecstatic anticipation crosses her face. She's been waiting for this. For centuries, she reveals. She's been raising the world's erosion ranks, desperately searching for someone strong enough to finally kill her. And now, the one prophesied to steal the curse of immortality stands before her. "What's your condition?" she asks, her voice trembling with excitement. Crash holds up an ornate, claw-like dagger. "Help me get stronger." "My skill only activates if I'm stronger than you," he explains. A classic paradox, but one he now has a plan to solve. Her grin widens. This is the deal of a lifetime. "So," she purrs, "I just need to make you my apprentice." Her eyes burn with a fanatic desire. "If it means I'll be freed from this immortality, I'd gladly sell my soul." A pact is made. "Very well," she declares, her true name echoing with power. "I, Crimson Garden August, will make you the strongest man alive." A colossal spectral dragon of pure red energy manifests behind her, its power shaking the very foundations of the manor. The raw pressure of her aura is overwhelming, a force that could level cities. Crash braces himself against the storm of power, realizing he's just made a deal with a being whose strength rivals even his nemesis, Lord Arthur. With her help, he can grow even stronger. He clenches his fist, his resolve hardening like steel. Even if I have to borrow the power of an invader, he thinks, I'll protect this world from its destruction. But he knows the stakes. A skill is a unique power, possessed by only one person in the world at a time. And according to that rule, Arthur's regression skill has now returned to him. This means Crash's path is a one-way street. If this world perishes again, if he fails in this lifetime, he will vanish along with it. There are no second chances. Crash, she says, her voice taking on a demanding tone. Call me master. He immediately gets a sharp pinch for his insolence. It seems his new master has a bit of a temper. August, back in her Sapphira disguise, walks with Crash through the golden halls. There, now I can finally leave this place. He sighs. He confesses he hasn't been to the Valheim Manor in years, and can barely even remember his parents' faces. They are stopped by a hooded woman. Lord Crash, your mother requests your presence. Crash is surprised. His mother never showed her face when he was exiled to Blue Pine Hall. He figures she's just curious about the rumors. Indeed, the woman confirms. And also, the family head said that upon returning from the Forbidden Domain, he intends to meet you personally. Crash's blood runs cold. A vision of a terrifying, powerful man looms over him. His father wants to see him? This is the man who ascended to a semi-divine state, a being who communes with the very stars. The woman adds one last instruction. Lady Arya asks that you remain here at the main estate until that time, but Crash has no time for this. Bianca's waiting for me, and I already have my hands full. I can't afford to waste time here. He quickly deduces this as a request from Arya, not a direct order from his father. Then I'll be heading back for now. The woman is stunned by his audacity as he turns and walks away without a second thought. As he leaves, a small smile plays on the lips of the woman in blue. Crash and his new familiar, Sapphira or August, controlling a familiar bird Krim, depart in a carriage, finally free from the viper's nest of the main estate. Stretching out, Crash yawns. Finally, I'm free of that place. I don't plan to go back for a while. Suddenly, a loud banging comes from the window. It's Krim, still in his bright red form. Mind your manners, you rude apprentice! Open this door! Crash sighs. Krim, don't you think your crimson hue stands out a bit too much? Relax. I can change my color anytime I want, the raven grumbles, its feathers shifting from crimson to a deep, ominous black. See? I look just like a crow now, don't I? Yeah, black as your soul, Crash retorts, leading to a comical mock fight between master and apprentice. The raven pecks at him. You know I can't move my actual body. You really are an unpleasant, mean-spirited regressor, Crash internally corrects her. The real regressor is Arthur, though. I only borrowed his skill, a half-finished regressor at best. As they near Blue Pine Hall, he gives his new familiar one last order. Oh, by the way, there's a white chick at Blue Pine Hall. Be nice to her. A white chick? Krim tilts its head in confusion. Standing before the grand estate is a small, mysterious girl in a white hoodie designed to look like a chick, complete with a rigid question mark on top. Bianca, looking radiant, is there to meet him. Welcome back, Crash. See? Told you I'd return, he says warmly, Krim perched on his shoulder. Ariad rushes out, tears in his eyes. Lord Crash! Crash walks past, asking, Ariad, has anything happened while I was away? The butler presents him with a letter. A letter arrived from Master Darling, sir. It's from the eccentric genius known as Darkening. The note is covered in cute doodles and sealed with a lipstick kiss, promising a, quote, cure for discoloration disease will be delivered soon. Crash shakes his head at the oddball's antics, but Ariad's expression turns serious. He leans in to whisper. By the way, Lady Bianca has been very worried about you. When Bianca heard Crash was caught in the world erosion, she immediately prepared a carriage, intending to storm the main Valheim estate herself to find him. The thought of her fierce loyalty makes something stir within Crash. He hasn't checked the lock on Bianca's curse in a while, but he can feel a change. A sinister purple aura erupts from his body, swirling around the unsuspecting Bianca. The lock on her soul glows intensely. The first condition was to become her friend. With that bond forged, the power of Blackhood reacts. Bianca's eyes, clear and blue, reflect the shifting energy. A system window declares, unlock complete. Bianca's first lock has been released. Crash looks at his own hand in shock as a tiny, fanged mouth appears on his palm. With the first lock on Bianca's soul released, Crash turned his attention to his new companion, who was eyeing the mysterious girl in the chick hoodie with confusion. Crash decides a formal introduction is in order. He tells Bianca he'd like her to meet someone new. The raven, Krim, leaps from Crash's head, wings spread wide as he prepares to greet his new acquaintance. But before he can even land, the enigmatic girl catches him mid-air. He introduces Raven as Krim. To both Crash and the raven's surprise, she pulls the bird into a tight, affectionate hug, remarking that the name, Krim, sounds soft, like cream. A small, almost imperceptible smile touches Crash's lips. He asks Bianca if she likes animals, a new layer of her personality revealing itself to him. His thoughts, however, quickly return to the task at hand. With the first lock broken, he wonders what it will take to break the second. As if on cue, the dark energy of his Black Hood skill responds, swirling around a vision of Bianca, who is shackled by a massive, heart-shaped padlock. The system reveals the next daunting trial. The second unlock condition is to become Bianca's most precious person. A montage of possibilities flashes through Crash's mind, illustrating the different forms this bond could take: a protective parent, a beloved child, a trusted friend, or a cherished lover. The ambiguity of the condition leaves Crash to ponder the right path forward. His mind immediately latches onto the most logical conclusion. Since they are already engaged, the lover route seems the most direct. But the thought gives him pause. He's an adult in a child's body, and Bianca is an emotionally distant girl who barely knows him. He thinks back to his previous life, realizing the conditions of the lock have changed entirely since his regression. Krim lands back on his head, flapping its wings. The raven's voice echoes in his mind, telling him that the white-haired girl clearly likes him, as she wouldn't let go of the bird earlier. With a sudden shift in tone, Krim cuts the light-hearted moment short. He tells Crash there's no more time for chatter. It was time to test his new apprentice's strength. Krim demands they go to the training grounds immediately. Before Crash can object, the raven's form swells, engulfed in a menacing red and black aura. Crash is thrown back to the brutal training sessions of his youth. He's lying breathless on the cold stone floor, utterly defeated by the demonic raven that towers over him. The creature's voice, cold and dripping with disdain, echoes from the past, calling him a disappointing failure of a regressor. The young Crash can only accept the insult. He knows he's not a true genius. Everything he's accomplished is built on the foundation of his past life's knowledge. He acknowledges his own weakness, believing that his hard-earned strength is fragile and that a true talent would easily eclipse him within 5 years. The demonic raven presses on, its words sharp and cutting, telling him that his reliance on effort alone is a fool's path. However, the creature's tone shifts, offering a sliver of dark hope. It tells him that, against its power, talent means nothing. The raven reminds him of his unique gift, the Black Hood skill. He doesn't need to cultivate talent when he can simply steal it from others. It promises to take him, a boy destined for the bottom, and raise him to the absolute pinnacle of power. A vision of Krim's original body, August, flickers in his mind's eye. The raven reveals its ultimate goal for him, to ascend to a height where everything is his for the taking, and lastly, to become strong enough to steal its own immortality. Back in the present, a few days have passed. The Blue Pine Hall is peaceful. Bathed in the morning sun, Crash is in the middle of his intense training regimen when a ridiculously cheerful voice cuts through the air. It's Elric, his eccentric friend, who bounds into the garden, calling Crash his honey. Crash, mid-swing with his gear-like sword, deadpans a response, asking since when he became Elric's honey. He cuts to the chase, demanding to know if Elric brought what he asked for, his patience already wearing thin. With a flourish, Elric presents a small, glowing vial. "Ta-da!" he exclaims, showing off the rare elixir he managed to procure. He puffs out his chest, smugly asking if Crash still doesn't think he's a genius. Crash surprises him with a rare, genuine compliment, stating that Elric has always been one. The unexpected sincerity strikes a chord with Elric, whose eyes widen before he launches himself at Crash in a tearful, suffocating hug. While clinging to his friend, Elric excitedly shares a piece of news. It's about Onyx Greiser, the Wood Archer. He explains that after his crushing defeat against Crash at the Star Sanctuary, Onyx, who had previously given up training, has started again with a vengeance. Crash can't help but smile. His psychological attack had worked perfectly, shattering Onyx's pride only to forge it anew, stronger than before. He groans in annoyance, complaining that Onyx is always causing him problems, though a hint of respect underlies his words. Watching from a nearby tree, Krim lets its thoughts be known. It muses that this could work out nicely. It had been looking for a way to strengthen Crash's fragile body. It tells Crash to ask the alchemy genius Elric to brew a special tonic for him, using a recipe it will provide. Seeing his chance, Crash turns to a still-clinging Elric, telling him he has another favor to ask. He asks Elric to make him a potion, and the two lock eyes with fierce intensity, a new deal being struck between them. Elric, ever perceptive, asks if Onyx's progress has inspired him. Crash ignores the question, assuring him that he will cover the costs himself. Crash begins to dictate the ingredients after Krim, one which August only knows because of his immortality. The complexity of the formula leaves Elric, a genius in his own right, completely speechless. He frantically scribbles down the notes, his mind racing to comprehend the alchemical principles Crash is describing. Elric stammers, asking where in the world Crash learned such an advanced formula. Krim coolly explains that it's a secret passed down through the Valheim family. After processing the information, Elric admits he can make the potion, but there's a huge problem: acquiring the ingredients. He explains that the recipe calls for two legendary components: white sunflame fungus and golden dragon grass. The fungus, he says, grows only in the monster-infested mountains of the northern Hardened Hearts territory. Crash calmly replies that he'll ask his fiancée for help, revealing a spectral image of Bianca against the backdrop of a snowy northern castle. With the first ingredient solved, Elric moves to the second, golden dragon grass, a mythical herb said to grow only in a golden dragon's lair. The only way to get it is through shady black market traders, a path fraught with danger and imperial scrutiny. Just as Crash resigns himself to tracking down a trader, Elric wags a finger, revealing he has another, better way. He tells Crash about a martial arts tournament the Athenian Empire is holding for anyone under 15. And the grand prize for the winner is none other than the golden dragon grass. Crash immediately balks at the idea. As a Valheim, his participation in an imperial event would create a massive political incident. But Elric, ever the schemer, reassures him that this genius has a plan, and shoves a small pink vial into his hand. Suspicious, Crash asks what the potion is supposed to do, sarcastically wondering if it will make him invisible. He drinks it, and his body is instantly racked with a violent, agonizing surge of energy. He lets out a blood-curdling scream as the potion's magic forcefully reshapes his body. As Crash writhes in pain, Elric cheerfully explains that since it's an open-entry tournament, a simple disguise is all he needs. The chaotic energy finally subsides. Elric gets a good look at the results and is terrified by what he sees. It would be better if Crash joins his harem as the girl, which he has transformed into. Krim just stares silently. Crash enrages and activates his magic and tells him to back off. Terrified, Elric moves away, screaming, "Sorry!" A few days have passed since his meeting with Elric. At the Valheim estate, he pushes his young body to its limits, his blue aura flaring with every swing of his gear-like sword. But his training partner is far from ordinary. Krim, his raven familiar, takes on its menacing demonic form, unleashing waves of dark, oppressive energy. Crash grits his teeth, his small frame struggling to hold its ground against the relentless onslaught of his mentor. His sword meets the dark tendrils with a deafening clang, the impact sending sparks flying through the training hall. He moves like a blur, the knowledge from his past life guiding his every step, allowing him to weave through attacks that would overwhelm any other 15-year-old. But even with his experience, the sheer power difference is overwhelming. The demonic raven swats him aside like a fly, sending him tumbling across the stone floor. Exhausted and bruised, Crash is left gasping for air. Krim's voice echoes in his mind, telling him this session is over. The Raven explains that the technique it's teaching him is an advanced skill that reads enemy attacks. Combined with Crash's natural intuition and his newly awakened sixth sense, he has reached a state close to precognition, able to anticipate his opponent's every move. Krim continues its lesson, explaining that once the elixir strengthens his body, his physical speed will finally catch up to his mind, making him even stronger. The Raven looks down at its pupil, stating that it's time for him to leave and begin his journey. With his training complete, Crash dons a cloak, ready to venture into the world to gather the legendary ingredients for his power-up. His mind flashes back to a few days earlier, recalling Elric's ridiculous solution for a disguise. He holds up a small, ornate vial, asking Elric if this is the potion that's supposed to keep him hidden. We see a brief, comical flashback of Crash and Elric. Elric had claimed the potion would allow him to disguise himself as a commoner to enter the tournament, but it was of course a prank. Crash yells at his friend, complaining that Elric should have just given him the disguise potion from the start, instead of turning him into a girl. Elric, ever the cheerful menace, happily informs him that the gender-bending effect will only last for about a day. Back in the present, Crash lets out an exasperated sigh, muttering that while his darling friend is helpful, he's also utterly exhausting. Crash approaches a waiting carriage. His butler, Ariad, stands ready to see him off, accompanied by a figure. Ariad explains that he's hired a broker from the lawless zone and a merchant who specializes in illegal border crossings to ensure Crash's safe passage. With a confident smile, Crash thanks his butler, telling Ariad he can leave Blue Pine Hall in his hands without worry. The simple words of trust are enough to move the old butler to tears, his lifetime of service finally being acknowledged by his young master. As the carriage prepares to depart, Ariad's demeanor shifts. A powerful blue aura erupts around him as he vows to protect the estate from everyone, not even letting the family head inside. With his home secure, Crash allows himself a small, genuine smile as he sets off on the next leg of his quest for power. He recalls a memory, likely of saving Ariad's daughter from a discoloration disease. He thanks Crash for healing his daughter, saying he has no regrets left. But Crash won't accept that. He coldly tells the man that if he's truly grateful, he'll keep living. He saved the man's daughter, and in return he expects absolute servitude. The memory of Ariad's tear-streaked face flashes in his mind, the old butler overwhelmed by a mix of fear and gratitude as he screams his vow to survive. With that, Crash feels a weight lift from his shoulders. The lingering suspicion from his past life, the fear that Ariad had betrayed him, is finally gone. As he turns to board the carriage, he's stopped by an unexpected sight. It's Bianca, standing silently in a dark cloak holding a small wicker basket. She has come to see him off. Crash feels a warmth spread through his chest as he thanks her for the favor of helping him get into her family's northern territory. She simply stares back with her usual stoic expression, but her actions speak louder than words. She tells him she'll be waiting for him at Blue Pine Hall. She then wordlessly pushes the basket into his hands. For the first time in a long, long time, a genuinely happy, carefree smile breaks out on Crash's face. He is visibly touched by her simple gesture of kindness. He peeks inside the basket and finds it filled with neatly made sandwiches. He muses that this must be why the kitchens were so noisy yesterday. Bianca averts her gaze, a subtle hint of a blush on her cheeks as she wishes him safe travels. Crash waves back, a rare softness in his voice, as he tells her to be careful too before setting off for the Empire. And so, his journey begins. The carriage travels down the long road, with Krim soaring high above, keeping watch. Deep in a forest along their route, Crash is no longer traveling, but fighting. He wields a new blazing fire magic Ignis from his brother, his sword wreathed in flames. The familiar toothy mouth of his Black Hood skill appears on his hand, now surrounded by both his blue aura and the crackling remnants of dark erosion energy. Krim circles overhead, asking how his control over the erosion power is holding up. Crash responds that thanks to his sixth sense, the volatile energy is stable. He reflects that the past 5 days have been peaceful. Too peaceful. The merchant Ariad hired was so good at avoiding erosion zones that Crash couldn't absorb any more of the power. Meanwhile, the broker, a young woman with light blue hair, is relaxing, completely unaware of the danger lurking nearby. Suddenly, an apple is violently knocked from her hand. Krim's sharp eyes spot the disturbance immediately. The caravan has stopped. There's trouble. Bandits! They surround the caravan, and the blue-haired woman finds herself grabbed by 2 of the thugs. Their leader, a large, menacing man with his face hidden behind a black mask, steps forward, clearly intending to take the lead in their little raid. He roughly grabs the woman's face, her eyes widening in terror as she realizes her fate. The bandit leader's eyes gleam with malice, but before he can do anything else, his world explodes in a flash of purple light and blood. Out of nowhere, a cloaked figure appears, his face hidden behind a black half-mask. It's Crash, and he's not happy. He unleashes a blast of pure purple aura. The bandit leader reels back in shock, stunned by the sudden, violent intervention of a mere brat. His men, loyal but foolish, charge forward to finish the kid off. One of them taunts Crash, saying that without a weapon, he's done for. A foolish mistake to make. Crash simply scoffs. Weapons? You mean this thing? He asks, as he summons his gear-like sword, now shrouded in a blade of crackling purple energy. He moves in an instant, a whirlwind of purple death, effortlessly cutting down the charging bandits before they can even react. His eyes glow with an unnerving, cold light. He is completely in control. The bandit leader, realizing he's severely underestimated his opponent, squares up for a real fight. He roars that this kid is no ordinary brat. He lifts his massive halberd, vowing to kill Crash in a single strike. The heavy axe head comes crashing down, but Crash meets it head-on, his smaller blade easily blocking the powerful blow. The impact sends a shockwave through the forest, but Crash doesn't budge an inch, effortlessly parrying the bandit's full-force attack. He breathes out, a look of utter boredom on his face. Tricks like that won't work on me, he says, almost disappointed. He thought he could handle this without even using his sixth sense. The bandit leader grits his teeth, realizing he has to use his secret technique. Crash simply watches, unimpressed, as the man puts all his strength into one final, desperate swing, screaming that he'll smash the boy's head along with his sword. The bandit's eye gleams with manic intensity. Got you, he thinks, as he unleashes his ultimate skill. He calls out its name, Phantom Battle Axe. A massive, spectral red axe forms in the air, a manifestation of pure, deadly aura aimed right at Crash. But instead of being terrified, Crash's eyes only widen with a flash of recognition. The bandit leader looks on in disbelief as the boy starts to change. In a stunning display of power, Crash's own hair bursts into a raging inferno, his eyes glowing an intense, otherworldly blue. He recognizes that secret art of the bandit. You're a disciple of the Butcher Dog. A dark memory surfaces, revealing the menacing figure of Butcher Dog Berkman. In the previous timeline, he was a notorious serial killer who became a servant of the World Invaders, right alongside Bianca, the White Demon. Berkman was fated to infiltrate the Staron Kingdom and carry out a horrific massacre, only to be stopped by the overwhelming power of Crash's genius half-sister Charlotte. Back in the present, Crash is wreathed in his own powerful fire magic, but his mind is racing. This isn't right. He recalls a newspaper clipping from his past life, the Empire Gazette, celebrating a 16-year-old Charlotte Valheim for single-handedly defeating the World Invaders agent. That major historical event isn't supposed to happen for years. So why, he wonders, are Berkman's subordinates already making moves in the lawless zone? A torrent of flames erupts from Crash's body, his hair blazing as he unleashes the fiery power of Ignis, a technique he clearly wasn't expecting to use. Everything is happening too early. A deep, unsettling feeling washes over him. The future he knows is already changing. Pushing his worries aside for now, he decides to focus on the mission at hand. Grab the golden dragon grass he came for and get out of this mess. With the bandits dealt with, the journey continues, and soon, The magnificent, sprawling cityscape of the Empire's capital, Silin, rises before them. Crash makes his way through the bustling streets, heading straight for the registration hall of an upcoming martial tournament. The hall is packed to the brim with powerful and interesting-looking competitors, all eager to prove their strength. Watching the scene from a balcony above is the 14-year-old fourth princess of the Empire, Cicely Ifania, her eyes sparkling with mischievous excitement. Her stern, red-haired attendant, Sarah, quickly scolds her, reminding her that her behavior is unbecoming of a princess. But Cicely is completely lost in her own world, much to the despair of her attendants who have long grown weary of her chaotic antics. She starts imagining her father scolding her. Sarah can only let out a long, exhausted sigh, a familiar expression of resignation on her face. But behind this childish facade lies a secret known to very few. Princess Cicely is, in fact, a once-in-a-generation prodigy. At the tender age of 7, she possessed a mind so brilliant she could solve advanced mathematical problems that stumped the Empire's greatest scholars. Her tutors believed she had the potential to rewrite the Empire's history, hailing her as a prime candidate for the throne. Cicely, however, was smart enough to know the truth. In the cutthroat world of imperial succession, a frail girl like her wouldn't stand a chance. She'd be killed immediately. So she made a calculated decision. To survive, she had to make everyone give up on her. With a gleeful laugh, she began her grand performance, tearing up her complex theses and embracing the role of a fool. From that day on, Cicely used her incredible intellect to act like an uncontrollable, wild troublemaker, running her tutors ragged. Eventually, even those who had once sung her praises began to shake their heads in disappointment, convinced they had simply misjudged her potential. Sarah knows it's all just an elaborate act, but she can't help but worry that lately, the princess has been taking her performance a little too far. Back in the present, Cicely dangles precariously from the balcony, her gaze fixed on a particular person in the crowd below. She zeroes in on a gloomy-looking boy in a dark hood, a raven perched silently on his shoulder. That gloomy aura, those narrowed eyes, and the crow. The princess is immediately intrigued. He looks like a total villain, she muses, even wondering aloud if he's a spy from Valheim, the Empire's sworn enemy. Dismissing her attendant's skepticism, Cicely trusts her instincts and decides to investigate this mysterious boy herself. With a wild cry of, "Lady Cicely!" from her horrified attendant, the princess leaps from the balcony. She runs through the crowd, toward the mysterious figure. But her impulsive plan immediately goes wrong as her foot slips on the ground. Just as she's about to hit the ground, the cloaked figure moves in a blur, effortlessly catching her in his arms. Crash looks down at the girl with an unimpressed expression. "Hey, wild child," he says coolly, "watch where you're going." Now safely on her feet, Cicely stares at the boy who saved her, a curious, analytical smile spreading across her face. His calm tone, his completely unfazed attitude. She realizes instantly that this boy knows exactly who she is and simply doesn't care. Crash, on the other hand, is anything but calm. He internally curses his terrible luck for running into the fourth princess of all people. He quickly finishes his business, turning in a registration form. He has entered the tournament under the alias Crad Owen, claiming to be an 11-year-old from the Staron Kingdom. With his new identity secured, he heads out to find a place to stay for the night, only to be met with "fully booked" signs at every inn. Just as he resigns himself to sleeping on the streets, a familiar fate from his past life, a gentle voice calls out to him. An elderly woman with a kind, grandmotherly face approaches, her expression warm and inviting. She asks if he's here for the tournament and, seeing his plight, offers him a room at her place. Perched on Crash's shoulder, Krim is immediately suspicious. This seems way too convenient. He thinks it looks shady as hell. But Crash, eager for a warm bed, happily accepts the woman's offer. As Krim squawks a silent protest, Crash reassures his familiar. He's done with sleeping outside. That was a past life problem he has no intention of repeating. Krim can only let out a weary sigh, muttering to himself about the predictable nature of regressors. The old woman leads them to a quaint inn on the outskirts of the bustling city at sunset. Crash thanks her for her kindness and happily bounds up the stairs, looking forward to a proper night's rest. But as he reaches the second-floor landing, he freezes. Someone is waiting for him. It's Princess Cicely. She somehow tracked him down and is now grinning at him from the hallway. She greets him cheerfully, exclaiming, "You're the guy from earlier." Crash buries his face in his hand in utter disbelief, while Krim's thought bubble confirms their fears. TCH. It was a trap. Deciding the best course of action is to simply ignore the hyperactive royal, Crash turns and walks towards his room without a word. Cicely is flabbergasted. I'm this cute and trying to talk to him, yet he's ignoring me? She wonders aloud before coming to a strange conclusion. Maybe he's into guys? Fed up with her persistence, Crash stops and bluntly informs her that he's not interested and she's not his type. He coldly tells her there are far prettier people in the world before turning his back on her again, telling her to stop following him. But she's relentless, chasing after him and insisting they eat together so she can learn more about him. He just waves her off, saying it's too much trouble. The repeated rejection finally seems to break through her cheerful facade. Her playful demeanor vanishes, replaced by a dark, intimidating aura. She stands at the top of the stairs, her expression suddenly cold and serious as she looks down on him. Her eyes gleam with sharp intelligence as she addresses him with a chillingly perceptive question. "Mr. Crad from Steron?" Crash freezes in place, a flicker of genuine shock crossing his face for the first time. He can't believe it. This girl, she figured out his origin and alias from nothing more than a single, brief exchange. Internally, Crash knows he's on thin ice. If he keeps talking, she'll figure out he's not from Steron but from the enemy nation of Valheim. He tries to play it off, condescendingly telling the princess that kids should just finish their dinner and go to bed. Cicely is absolutely fuming. Who is he calling a kid? She points out that he's just a kid himself. Beside her, the red-haired attendant, Sarah, watches with a stoic expression, used to the princess's outbursts. Once the initial anger passes, Sarah quietly asks Her Highness if she's sure the boy is from Steron. Cicely, now deep in thought, simply replies with a quiet yes. Ignoring the commotion from the balcony, Crash calmly enjoys his meal, sharing some with his raven familiar, Krim. He's doing his best to appear completely unbothered by the royal presence. From above, the two women continue their observation. While the Empire and Steron speak the same language, Cicely explains that Steron has unique intonations and pronunciations. His accent is close, but she can pick up on the subtle differences. A normal person would overlook such tiny details, but Cicely's mind is anything but normal. She memorizes and analyzes everything she sees, and her perception is almost clairvoyant. Sarah, ever the loyal knight, suggests they simply capture and interrogate the boy, but Cicely quickly dismisses the idea. This is far too interesting to end so soon. Changing the subject, Cicely asks for news about her older sister. Sarah's expression darkens. She confirms the princess's prediction was correct. Sarah reports that Princess Sigrun, the third princess, seems to be a completely different person than she was just a year ago. A chilling image of a cruel, confident Sigrun, flanked by her cronies, flashes through Cicely's mind. Her sister is no longer the person she knew. This new Sigrun is cold, calculating, and utterly terrifying. A wave of pure dread washes over Cicely. Her carefree act completely vanishes, replaced by a frantic, wide-eyed terror. Something is terribly wrong. Her uneasy feeling was right. She grips the railing, her knuckles white. At this rate, her brothers, the first and second princes, are in grave danger. She knows with a chilling certainty that if things continue on this path, the palace will drown in blood. Meanwhile, the martial tournament's preliminary rounds are underway. In a brutal, 100-person free-for-all, only the top 4 will advance. A fighter unleashes a devastating blow, shattering the ground and sending his opponent flying. The force of the attack rips through the arena, a testament to the power of the combatants who have gathered here. The crowd roars, a mix of shock and excitement. The announcer declares the qualifiers are over and calls for the 4 victors to leave the stage. Among them is the mysterious hooded boy, Crad Owen. His silent, imposing figure and the ever-present raven on his shoulder have already made him a subject of rumor and speculation. He's been trying to lay low, but Princess Cicely's constant pestering is making it impossible. Her endless, cheerful questions are a minefield. He knows even a short conversation could be dangerous, as she could extract critical information from him. It's mentally draining. Still, he manages to keep his cool. Her constant presence was an annoyance, but at least it didn't affect his performance in the prelims. As he walks through the corridors of the Colosseum, he looks over the field of defeated combatants. These weaklings, he thinks, never stood a chance. But his path is blocked by another of the 4 victors. A lean, wiry boy covered head to toe in stitches and bandages leans against the wall, a manic grin on his face. He's heard the rumors. The crow, the shady face. He confronts Crash, his tone cocky and challenging. With a wild grin, he asks if Crash is one of the infamous Night Crows. Crash's mind races. The Night Crows, a notorious assassin organization in the Empire, feared as the most dangerous faction in the underworld, and one of the eventual causes of the Empire's collapse. As someone outside the Empire, in his past life, he didn't know all the details, but he'd never heard of a Nightcrow member entering the tournament. He clenches his fist and coldly denies the accusation. The bandaged boy immediately throws his hands up in surrender, claiming he's not looking for a fight. He tries to play friendly, suggesting that since they're both from the underworld, they should team up. With a jaunty wave, he introduces himself, calling Crash by the moniker Nightcrow. Crash narrows his eyes. The boy mentioned backing. Something about this feels off. He can't put his finger on it, but his instincts are screaming. Krim tells him not to worry and let him handle this situation. Krim takes flight, his red eyes glowing as he swoops towards the unsuspecting assassin. Krim's power washes over him, and his eyes go white. He's completely overwhelmed by a mental attack he never saw coming. As Krim lands back on Crash's shoulder, the boy stumbles away, his mind now completely vacant. From under his hood, Crash smirks. It was a simple brainwash spell, a useful trick to have up his sleeve. He compliments Krim on his versatility. The Raven, it seems, is more than just a scout. Crash turns his attention back to his new puppet. "Hey, bandage guy," he calls out, his voice flat and emotionless. Under the spell's influence, the boy turns back, his eyes still blank. Crash asks him what happened to the Night Crows. The assassin numbly reveals a shocking truth. The organization was nearly wiped out recently. A single black feather drifts to the ground. If they were wiped out, Crash wonders, why are they here? The boy explains they are here on the orders of their new master, the very person who drove them to the brink of destruction. As the brainwash spell takes full effect, the boy's form flickers like a shadow. He reveals the identity of this new master. It's the second prince of the Ifanian Empire, Shifan Ifania, the gluttonous brother of Sigrin and Cicely. Crash and Krim are both stunned. The second prince? This doesn't make any sense. Crash's mind works furiously, piecing together the information from his past life. The Nightcrows were originally a trap set by the Empire to monitor and manipulate the nobility. Their master was always the royal family. The connection between the assassins and the royals was a secret that was supposed to stay hidden until the Empire's fall. New master shouldn't be possible. But for even a low-ranking member to know the second prince is leading them, it can only mean one thing. Someone is using him, intentionally leaking the information. A memory clicks into place. In the original timeline, the second prince's faction was meant to strengthen the power base of the first prince. But if the second prince is targeted and killed first, the first prince's power collapses along with him. The entire political landscape would be thrown into chaos. And the one who benefits most from that chaos is the third princess, Sigrin Ifania. The pieces snap together in a horrifying picture. A traumatic memory resurfaces, the faces of Sigrin, Mary, and Abella, the ones who tormented him in his past life. He realizes the terrifying possibility. Arthur's memories of the future, his own regression. Sigrin must have inherited them. If Sigrin knows the future, then her first target would undoubtedly be the one who could unravel her plans. A gruesome vision floods his mind. Princess Cicely, dead on the floor in a pool of her own blood. She hid the imperial symbol, the white dragon pearl, and then took her own life to protect it from her sister. Sigrin's plan is clear. To make it easier to hand the throne to Arthur and make him her puppet emperor, she needs to eliminate any potential threats. That means getting rid of Cicely first. If Sigrin succeeds and becomes emperor, the empire will fall. And Crash knows that Cataclysm will trigger a massive, unstoppable surge in world erosion, leading to the world's collapse. A dark purple aura erupts around him. He can't let that happen. He has to stop her. To save the future, he'll have to disrupt her plans and steal her skill for himself. He turns to his familiar. Krim, I need your help. The raven squawks, chiding him for relying blindly on future knowledge. But despite the warning, Krim agrees. He was the one who decided to help Crash after all. Just this once, he'll back him up. Crash looks back at the brainwashed assassin. Krim asks what to do with him now. Crash tells Krim to leave him. He served his purpose as an informant. With a flick of his wrist, Crash places a new command on the boy. Then I'll make him my servant, Krim says. Deciding a new piece on the board could be useful. The assassin turns and walks away, a new, loyal pawn in Crash's game. With the immediate threat neutralized, Krim asks for the next move. Crash pulls his hood down, his expression grim. It's time to stop hiding in the shadows. It's time to use their disguises. The plan is set. They will infiltrate the main tournament and hunt down the real Nightcrows, dismantling Sigrin's power base from the inside. Meanwhile, in a dusty, forgotten room filled with scattered books, a cloaked figure trembles in fear. This is the necromancer Evelesk, a powerful world invader Crash plans to recruit. She's not alone. A gaunt, monstrous figure snarls in the darkness. He's one of the real Nightcrows, and he's furious that some brat named Crad dared to impersonate one of them. He vows to make the boy pay. The main event of the martial tournament is underway, and Crad Owen, Crash's undercover persona, easily subdues a brutish opponent with a powerful chokehold. With his foe collapsing to the ground, the announcer's voice booms across the Coliseum, declaring Crad the winner of match 32. The crowd roars with excitement, chanting his new moniker, a name that's spreading like wildfire through the stands. Under his hood, Crash remains impassive. His plan is working perfectly. Everyone now believes he is the infamous Nightcrow. He glances up at the stands, spotting the same energetic, blue-haired girl and her red-haired guardian, Sarah, who have been watching him intently. They're cheering his name. The young girl waves enthusiastically, shouting his new nickname, completely captivated by the mysterious and powerful fighter. With the day's matches concluded, Crash returns to his inn, but he's not alone for long. The same blue-haired girl suddenly appears, having tracked him down. She breathlessly congratulates him on dominating the qualifiers, noting that he's no ordinary kid. She stares at him with an unnerving intensity, her cheerful demeanor gone. She asks him what's with that look, sensing the weight he carries. Crash turns his head away, telling her it's nothing. He cryptically remarks that she seems to have lived a complicated life. His words catch her completely off guard, her eyes widening in shock. She knows something is off. Not giving her a chance to question him further, Crash turns to leave. He gives her a final, chilling piece of advice. Watch her back. Then he announces he's going to sleep. The girl facepalms in frustration. She's certain something significant happened while she wasn't looking, and she can't figure out what it is. Watching him disappear into his room, she mutters to herself, wondering where he could have possibly obtained this information. She turns to her loyal companion, Sarah. and asks if they can truly trust the Imperial spies they've hired. Sarah, her expression grim and laced with concern, agrees to double-check their sources. The boy's warning was too specific to ignore. Elsewhere, the blue-haired girl thinks to herself that the name, Nightcrow, sounds pretty cool, unaware of the hornet's nest Crash is intentionally poking. As Crash walks away, he tells Krim that all they have to do now is wait. By impersonating the Nightcrows, he's laid the perfect bait for the real assassins to reveal themselves. Later that night, as he walks through a dark, torchlit corridor, his path is blocked. A shadowy figure leans against the wall, waiting for him. It's a gaunt, haggard-looking man, his eyes burning with malice. He asks Crash if he's having fun impersonating a Nightcrow. Crash feels a strange sense of familiarity, a similar aura to the bandaged boy he'd interrogated earlier. He knows this is one of the real ones. A confident smirk spreads across his face. He hadn't expected them to show up quite so soon. Without another word, the assassin lunges, a dagger in each hand, moving with blinding speed. The air whistles as the blade slices through the space where Crash was standing just a moment ago, but Crash is already gone, dodging the attack with practiced ease. He notes the man's dual-blade style. In an instant, he closes the distance, grabbing the assassin's wrists and halting his frenzied attack completely. The assassin snarls, realizing he's been caught. A malevolent red aura explodes from the assassin, manifesting as 4 grotesque scythe-like limbs sprouting from his back. He lets out a maniacal cackle, ready to tear Crash apart. But Crash is unimpressed. He stomps his foot, preparing to end the fight in a single move. He unleashes a devastating flurry of blows, shattering the assassin's daggers, and overwhelming his demonic appendages with sheer, brutal force. A final, bone-crushing strike connects squarely with the assassin's face, sending him flying. Crash stands over his broken opponent. From his shoulder, Krim declares the fight pointless. The man's dark magic, infused with world erosion, has no effect on Crash. Crash reveals he knows who the true Nightcrow is. It's Evelesque. The assassin is in utter disbelief, demanding to know how Crash knows his identity. But Crash ignores him and asks her a single terrifying question. Sigrun has her heart, doesn't she? The assassin panics, stammering denials, but it's too late. Crash offers him a deal. In exchange for all the information they have on Sigrun's plan, he will retrieve Evelesque's stolen heart. Krim watches intently as his master begins to spin his web, ready to claim a powerful new piece for his board. The reveal finally sinks in. This disheveled, terrified woman is the real Nightcrow, the world invader and necromancer Evelesque Benepoci. She was imprisoned by the Empire for 1,000 years after her heart was stolen, her immense power locked away. A flashback reveals a brief moment from his past, where he tells her that her fate is even more cursed than his own. In another memory, he is seen scrubbing floors, recalling how the other members of the Azure generation mocked Evelesque for acting superior while hiding in her tent. Back in the present, Crash pieces together the history he never knew. The Nightcrows were wiped out during his academy days, their true identity always a mystery. He now understands that she disappeared from the world because Lord Arthur himself had captured her. With this new knowledge, he storms into her hidden room. He finds her cowering under a blanket in a dusty, web-filled room. He chides her for the state of her prison, telling her she needs to be dealt with firmly or she'll get cocky. Startled by his sudden appearance, Evelesque shrinks back in fear. Crash wastes no time, grabbing her by the chin and forcing her to look at him. He tells her to look up. She protests weakly, reminding him of his promise to find her heart. He agrees, telling her he's going to show her his skill firsthand. A surge of purple energy emanates from his hand. He unleashes his Black Hood ability. Ethereal chains and padlocks erupt around Evelesque, binding her not physically, but spiritually. He knows a simple approach won't work on someone who has been imprisoned for a millennium. He manifests a glowing silver chain, the physical representation of their potential contract. He offers her a deal. If she gives him permission to take custody of her heart, he can retrieve it for her, right here, right now. A single tear of hope and desperation traces a path down her cheek. With a choked sob, she immediately agrees, screaming that she gives him permission. Krim, perched on Crash's shoulder, puffs out his chest. He tells her mere words are not enough. She must put her heart into it. Crash guides her through the process, telling her to listen carefully. He asks her to imagine the life she truly wants, a life free from her current misery. He paints a picture of a carefree existence, lounging around all day, eating whatever she wants, while her corpses do all the work for her. This idyllic vision is illustrated with a simple, childlike drawing. He then presents the alternative, a future of endless, torturous labor, forced to obey the royal family forever, shown as a crude drawing of her being tormented by a king and his minions. The horrifying vision of eternal servitude breaks her completely. She screams that she doesn't want to work anymore. Crash feels a surge of immense power emanating from her despair. This, he realizes, is the true power of a necromancer, fueled by raw, unbridled emotion. With tears streaming down her face, she finally breaks, pleading for Crad to help her. Crash calmly tells her she has no choice but to entrust her heart to him. He leans in close, his voice a soothing whisper, promising that if she does this, she will never have to work again. He gently places a hand on her head, a gesture of reassurance in the midst of her turmoil. Finally, her deepest, truest wish erupts from her soul. She doesn't just want her heart back. She wants to live an easy, carefree life, playing every single day. With her true desire spoken, the contract is fulfilled. The chains binding her shatter as she screams for him to take her heart, offering it willingly in exchange for her dream. A small, satisfied smile touches Crash's lips. He pats her head and says, "Well done." With her spirit shattered after a millennium of imprisonment, Evelesque can only weep as Crash coldly lays out his terms. He tells her to get up, that their business isn't finished. Now that he has her loyalty, he needs her information. He asks her one simple question: what is Sigrun planning? Evelesque, her voice trembling, reveals the horrific truth. She was ordered to target the fourth princess's master swordswoman, Sarah Vatera. Her mission was simple and brutal: eliminate Sarah, and then use her reanimated corpse to assassinate Princess Cecilia Fania. Somewhere fight was carried out. Ruthless Mary Diana, one of Lord Arthur's most devoted companions, unleashes her terrifying power. Sarah, despite her skill, is overwhelmed by the sheer force of Mary's golden aura. Krim, Crash's raven, watches the vision unfold, a silent observer to the tragedy. Mary's spear, glowing with deadly energy, pierces through Sarah's defenses. With a cruel, triumphant sneer, Mary Diana celebrates her victory over the warrior known as the Mad Blade Sarah Vatera. Standing over Sarah's lifeless body, with her brutish subordinate looking on, Mary carries out her grim task. With her mission seemingly complete, she and her henchmen retreat into the shadows, leaving only death behind. Later, under the light of the full moon, Mary Diana reflects on her actions. It has been a full year since she returned to the past, a full year of striving for one single purpose. Her thoughts drift to the man at the center of her world, Lord Arthur. In a hazy memory from just before the world's end, we see a younger Mary, a younger Sigrun, and a childlike Abella all together. They were Lord Arthur's chosen companions, bound by a shared, deep-seated loyalty. A shirtless Lord Arthur promised to meet them, a promise that filled Mary's heart with excitement, but he never showed up. She and Sigrun waited for hours at the Statue of Peace, their hope slowly turning to bitter disappointment. Sigrun grew impatient and angry, but Mary held on to her faith. She searched the empty streets, wondering where he could have gone, why he would abandon them. Clenching her fist, she renews her vow. She must believe in Lord Arthur. Before he returns, she will regain her former strength and make him proud to call her his strongest spear. She is determined to complete any mission given to her, no matter the cost. Back in the present, her brutish subordinate is the Evelesque corpse, carrying Sarah in a heavy sack. Mary asks if the Quo boy from the tournament was one of her corpses. A clever trick to draw attention. Evelesque confirms her suspicion, but Mary adds a chilling warning. She reminds the necromancer not to try anything foolish while Lady Sigrun is away. After all, she is the one holding Evelesque's heart. The mere thought of Mary's power sends a shiver of terror through Evelesque, who stammers her obedience. With the threat delivered, she slings the sack over his shoulder and departs, leaving Mary to her thoughts. A sly, predatory smile creeps across her face. She muses that while Evelesque usually collects ugly corpses, she's kept a cute one like Crad hidden away. What a shame, she thinks, that he's just a corpse. Meanwhile, the corpse in question is anything but. Crash, under his alias Crad, steps into the Colosseum for the final match, a playful and confident smirk on his face. His opponent is Puree, a 14-year-old commoner from a rural village, a pure-hearted youth who dreams of world peace, or so he seems, but Crash knows the truth. In his past life, this boy was one of the powerful warriors of the Azure generation. Crad draws his unique, gear-like sword. The crowd roars as the final match begins. For the first time in the tournament, the mysterious Nightcrow has drawn his weapon. The two fighters charge. As they clash, Puree speaks, his voice low. He heard that since they both reached the finals, they're guaranteed entry into Laheln Academy. He tells Crad he can stop pretending to be a Nightcrow and live a normal life now. He should give up on assassinations for good. Crash's expression hardens. He's not here to reminisce. He's here to teach a harsh lesson. The announcer signals for the fight to begin in earnest. Crash offers his old friend one last piece of advice. If he clings too strongly to hope, he'll never be able to withstand true despair. The words hit Puree like a physical blow, his eyes widening in shock and confusion. The announcer finally downs his hand, signaling the start of the match. Puree unleashes his signature move, the 10 Shadow Steps, a lightning-fast assault technique. He flies through the air, disappointed that Crad is just standing there. But Crash isn't standing still. With movements honed by a lifetime of combat, he parries every single strike with contemptuous ease. Puree is stunned. That movement? He can't believe what he's seeing. He redoubles his efforts, but every attack is blocked perfectly. It's like Crad already knows his sword style inside and out. Desperation sets in. Pirret feels like he's fighting a ghost. And in a way, he is. Crash thinks to himself that he is something like a ghost, someone who's already died once. He remembers everything from his past life. He remembers Pirret, who grew up in snowy lands, developing his unique footwork, the 10,000-mile 10-step. He trained harder than anyone. Crash remembers it all because he watched from the sidelines. Every feint, every habit, every finishing move. He might understand Pirret better than the boy understands himself. Pirret is at a complete loss. His attacks won't reach him. He can't understand why. Crash channels that power now, moving later than his enemy, yet reaching first with his blade. Pirret can only watch, breathless and terrified, as Crad prepares to end the fight. Crash tells him to grow stronger, strong enough to endure, even if his hope shatters. Then he unleashes the final blow. Short strike! The match is over. The announcer declares Crad the victor, as Krim lands triumphantly on his master's raised sword. Crash turns away from his fallen opponent, his duty done. He wonders if we'll meet again someday. A memory surfaces from his past life. A younger, tattooed Crash sparring with a happy, laughing Pirret in a field of flowers. Pirret thanks Crash, his face beaming with joy. I'll work harder than ever, harder than even the curse you took from me. I'll definitely protect this world. The memory stings. The earnest declaration. The naivete. It was the first time anyone had ever thanked him. He pushes the memory aside. Yeah. See you at the academy then. He leaves his old friend defeated on the arena floor, hoping the loss will spark a fire in him. The tournament concludes, but the real drama is just beginning. High in the stands, Chiffon Afania, the second prince, laughs uproariously. As expected of the Nightcrow, never disappoints. He muses that if he can use the Nightcrows to reel in more nobles, the throne will naturally be his. At the sight of the prince, Evelesque, who had been brought to the stands, begins to tremble uncontrollably, her face a mask of pure terror. Suddenly, the prince's attendant with the mustache marches forward, his face grim. Imperial guards begin to mobilize, their heavy boots thudding on the stone. Move! Incident Response Unit. The attendant bellows, causing panic among the prince's entourage. An elite unit of soldiers in terrifying dragon-headed helmets appears, surrounding the prince's box. They are the Black Dragon Knights, the Order of Executioners. Leading them is Mary. The second prince, Chiffon, steps forward. Mary Diana, he announces, his voice ringing with authority. Mary doesn't listen to his words. She orders, "You're under arrest for the attempted assassination of 4th Princess Cicely Afania." She informs him that they found an order at the Nightcrow hideout, signed by you, commanding the princess's assassination. Second prince screams that it's ridiculous, that he never wrote such a thing. Panicking, the prince orders Evelesque to execute the traitors trying to frame him. But the terrified necromancer can only stammer, her eyes wide with fear. Suddenly, a familiar voice cuts through the chaos. "Hey, Sarah, when was I killed again?" Mary looks over and sees the impossible. Princess Cicely and her protector Sarah are both standing there, completely unharmed and very much alive. Mary Diana's world shatters. She stares in utter disbelief, her mind struggling to comprehend what's happening. She's been played. We flash back to the night of the assassination attempt. Sarah, Princess Cicely's guardian, races through the palace halls, a sense of urgency in her every step. She recalls a premonition from the young princess, a warning of an impending attack. At the time, Sarah was skeptical, but she had to be sure. She asked if they could truly trust the Imperial spies they'd hired. Despite her doubts, a flicker of worry remained. She decided to double-check their new recruits. Just to be safe, her instincts paid off. She discovered the spies her faction had planted in the palace had all betrayed them, their loyalties bought by an unknown enemy. As she pieced together the conspiracy, Crad's raven, Krim, appeared before her, cloaked in a swirling red aura under the full moon. Sarah was stunned as a voice echoed directly in her mind. It was the crow, offering to share its immortal power in exchange for some of her life force, urging her to pretend to be dead. The surge of dark energy was overwhelming, coursing through her body and causing her immense pain. Her unique, star-shaped pupil glowed intensely as the crow's power settled within her, a desperate gamble to survive the night. Drained and disoriented by the sudden infusion of power, she stumbled, her head spinning. It was at that moment of vulnerability that her true attacker appeared. Mary Diana, wreathed in her signature golden aura, her spear at the ready. Sarah realized with dawning horror that she was the target. Just as the question crossed her mind, Mary made her move. The memory of the spear piercing her body was still vivid, a phantom pain she would never forget. Back in the present, standing beside the young blue-haired girl, she was certain that if Crad's crow hadn't lent her its power, neither of them would be standing here now. Princess Cicely orders the arrest of Mary Diana, vice-captain of the Black Dragon Knights, on suspicion of espionage. Mary grits her teeth, sweat beading on her forehead. A spy? The accusation is absurd, but the evidence of her failure is standing right in front of her. The young blue-haired girl, her usual cheerfulness replaced by a wide, unnerving grin, taunts the captured knight. She asks Mary if she really thought they were dead. With a roar, Sarah brings a massive sword down on Mary, but Mary reacts in an instant, smashing a rock shield up from the ground to block the devastating blow. The attack stops, sending a shockwave of force and debris across the courtyard. Mary's mind races in panic. She had meticulously planned everything. She ordered Evelesque to kill Sarah, then used the corpse to assassinate Cicely. She remembers the dark ritual, the promise of a perfect assassination that would remove a rival to the throne and frame another. But somehow the clever fourth princess had seen through the entire plot, turning it completely on its head. The girl's innocent face now looks demonic in Mary's eyes. Mary clutches the pouch containing Evelesque's stolen heart. She realizes that Lady Sigrun was right to try and eliminate the princess. If left alive, Cicely will become an even greater obstacle. She decides in a split second. She has to kill the princess here and now, before her chance is lost forever. Her hand begins to glow with red runic magic. Her eyes burn with golden light and desperate resolve. She channels her power, preparing to force the necromancer to act. The magical command surges through the air, and Evelesque's eyes widen in terror as the runes swirl around her. She screams in agony, a puppet whose strings are being pulled. She can't disobey the command carved into her very heart, even if it means attacking the boy who just freed her. But before the spell can take full effect, a swirl of purple energy erupts from the crowd. It's Crash, intervening at the last possible second. His hand plunges into Mary's hand, not to harm, but to retrieve something. Mary looks down, her mind blank with shock. She feels a void. The pouch holding the Evelesque's heart is gone. The entire scene descends into as chaos. She first failed to kill the fourth princess. Second, she failed to bring down the second prince. Now she even lost the Evelesque's heart. Evelesque stands frozen, surrounded by the shadowy husks of monsters, free but utterly confused. The weight of her complete and utter failure crashes down on her. But even in defeat, a cornered animal is at its most dangerous. With a guttural scream, she decides to take matters into her own hands. If magic won't work, she'll kill the princess directly. Ignoring everyone else, she focuses all her remaining energy into one final, desperate charge. Power surges to her feet, her boots glowing with immense golden light. The force of her launch shatters the stone beneath her, a testament to the power she wields. She unleashes her ultimate technique, a skill that grants her the world's fastest speed, Excel. In a flash of golden light, her spear is just inches from its target, aimed directly at the young blue-haired girl's head. But her divine spear is stopped cold. Crash is there, his sword cloaked in a sinister purple flame, blocking the fatal blow. The impact sends sparks flying as the tip of the holy spear grinds against Crash's dark, otherworldly power. Sarah and the girl cry out his name, their faces a mixture of terror and shocked relief. Mary can only stare, dumbfounded. How could a mere corpse, a pawn in her game, stop her ultimate attack? With a smirk, Crash effortlessly holds back the spear. He comments that her simple-minded thinking never changes, as always. Mary is flabbergasted. He knows her? How is this possible? She can't comprehend the situation. Seizing the opportunity, the second prince screams at his guards to capture the attempted royal assassin immediately. One of the elite Black Dragon Knights moves instantly, striking Mary's spear and knocking it from her grasp. The rest of the unit swarms in, grabbing her arms and restraining her before she can react. Mary thrashes against them, screaming for her spear, her pride and her weapon torn from her. But it's over. She's under arrest. The group watches as the strongest spear is unceremoniously dragged away, her desperate cries for help from Lady Sigrun and Lord Arthur echoing unanswered. Krim, his task complete, takes to the air, leaving the chaos of the arena behind. As the commotion dies down, the young blue-haired girl rushes to Crash's side, anxiously asking if he's all right. Crash stumbles back, clutching his trembling arm. The force of Mary's attack was immense, and the block has left him severely weakened. He shakes his head, admitting that even with his black flame, a power he gained by absorbing the world's erosion, he barely managed to defend himself. He's still far from the master level he needs to be. The girl blushes, relieved that he's safe. She tells him that as long as he's okay, that's all that matters. Meanwhile, Prince Chiffon is in a frenzy, ordering his men to root out any other conspirators involved in the plot. Using the chaos as a distraction, Crash signals to Evelesque. It's time for them to disappear. Crash activates his power, and a pool of dark, blood-like shadow melts out from their feet, ready to transport them away. Sarah desperately calls out to him, wanting to thank him, but he's already sinking into the shadows. The young blue-haired girl looks on, disappointed that he left without a word. She vows to find him at the academy and repay the debt she owes him. Later, inside a lavish carriage, Crash and a very confused Evelesque emerge from the shadows. Crash muses on the convenience of his teleportation ability. Though its restrictions are a shame, he can only teleport living people short distances, which limits its usefulness for now. Evelesque tosses him a rare herb, the golden dragon grass he requested, telling him she went through a lot of trouble to get it. And then, he presents her with the real prize, her own heart, finally returned to her after 1,000 years of imprisonment. Evelesk is overwhelmed with emotion, tearfully thanking him. She can't believe he's not just another world invader, there to exploit her. Leaning back, Crash tiredly asks what a world invader is. Evelesk explains that the erosion power he used, the black flame, is the same kind of energy that invaders from other worlds use. That's why she was so easily convinced he was one of them. She believed his story because she thought he was the same kind of being as her. Crash closes his eyes, realizing this could be a problem in the future. He might be mistaken for an enemy by those he's trying to protect. But his moment of reflection is cut short. His raven, Krim, suddenly appears before him, its expression grim. The raven delivers an urgent, telepathic message, interrupting his thoughts with terrible news. It seems there's a problem with his fiancée. A dark premonition floods Crash's mind, showing Bianca lying cold and still in a desolate, snowy landscape. The raven clarifies the report. A notorious killer known as the Butcher Dog has infiltrated the mountains of Hardened Hearts, and Bianca, who was traveling there, has gone missing. The pieces click into place with cold, sickening dread. The dagger wielder he interrogated was the Butcher Dog's disciple. The premonition was real. Crash grits his teeth in a mix of fury and fear. With a surge of panic, he shouts for Evelesk, telling her his fiancé is in grave danger and they must get to Hardened Hearts at once. The carriage lurches forward, racing through the countryside. Inside, the ancient necromancer is utterly bewildered by his frantic outburst. She questions him, unable to comprehend how a supposed world invader like him could possibly have a fiancé. Done with the charade, Crash slides down from his seat. He looks at her and states plainly that he is not an invader, and his tournament name, Crad, was merely an alias. A powerful purple aura flares around him, his true power no longer suppressed. He reveals his real name is Crash Valheim, the youngest son of the infamous family she just disparaged. Evelesk stares, her eyes wide with utter shock. The boy who freed her, the one she thought was a fellow outsider, was a Valheim this whole time. Her heart falls from her hand, her mind races, trying to connect the dots. The mysterious Crad was a Valheim? The shocking truth sends her world spinning as the carriage rattles onward. The scene then shifts far to the north, to a temporary camp set up in the harsh, frozen landscape of the Hardened Hearts territory. Inside a tent, we find Jenica Hardened Hearts, Bianca's older sister, sobbing uncontrollably and consumed by guilt. Standing beside her is the stoic northern youth. His unique star-shaped pupils betray no emotion as he listens to her story. He calmly asks Jenica why she and Lady Bianca went into the treacherous mountains in the first place, prompting her to recount the tragic events. Jenica's story flashes back a few days, showing Bianca trekking through the snow alone, determined to gather a rare herb for Crash. A furious Jenica and her search party had caught up to her, demanding she go home and cruelly calling Crash a failure. Bianca glares back, her voice firm and unwavering as she defends him, stating that he is not a failure. Jenica, flustered and angry, retorts that it's none of Bianca's business and tells her to take her unwanted self back to Valheim. Bianca turns away, stung by her sister's harsh words. Her inner thoughts reveal a deep-seated pain. She believes Jenica has always hated her. A tragic image of their mother's passing flashes through her mind, the source of the terrible rift between the two sisters. Despite the hurt, Bianca resolves to find the white sun flame fungus for Crash, planning to apologize to her sister later. She clenches her fist, her resolve hardening. But her determination is cut short by a sudden, terrifying presence. The masked northern attacker appears from the blizzard, his malevolent red aura radiating pure killing intent. He has already slaughtered the entire search party. He greets the two horrified girls, his voice a low, sadistic growl, relishing their fear. Jenica looks on in abject horror, seeing the bodies of their guards lying twisted and broken in the snow. The attacker callously discards one of the bodies, remarking that while it's a pain, he's hit the jackpot by finding two noble girls as perfect hostages. His cold, predatory eyes fixate on the two sisters, who are now his helpless prey. Terrified, Jenica screams for Bianca to run, grabbing her hand and pulling her away from the carnage. The two sisters flee through the deep snow, their hearts pounding with terror as the killer gives chase. He sadistically toys with them, playing hide and seek, asking where they could possibly hide. As they run, Bianca thinks of her promise to Crash. She can't die here. She must deliver the fungus. Desperate, Jenica points towards a deep crevasse, thinking the treacherous terrain of the glacier cliff might slow him down. They race towards the massive crack in the ice, a sheer drop that offers their only sliver of hope. But their hope is short-lived. The attacker's voice echoes from behind them, mocking their predictable plan. He's already there. Cornered at the cliff's edge, with the chasm yawning before them, Jenica begins to despair. Bianca stays surprisingly calm, pointing to a ledge on the other side and telling a panicked Jenica that they're jumping. Jenica's horrified by the insane suggestion, screaming that they'll fall to their deaths. Bianca coldly replies that they'll be killed either way. The Butcher Dog looms over them, his axe at the ready, inviting them to come to him. In a split-second decision, Bianca grabs her sister, preparing to force the desperate jump. Attacker hands shoots out like a viper, trying to seize Bianca. But he was a moment late. He asks, "Are they trying to kill yourselves?" But, to his surprise, there was a foothold. Just below the ledge, Jenica and Bianca tried to hide, but were found out. The butcher dog doesn't waste any time and leaps off the cliff. Bianca asks her sister to trust her this time, and before Jenica could respond anything, she leaps off the foothold, holding the butcher dog with her. The flashback ends. Back in the present, a tearful and broken Jenica finishes her story, her face buried in her hands. She explains that was the last thing she saw, but adds that the search party believes Bianca shouldn't be dead, as she likely fell into an area with deep snow. But Jenica is inconsolable, drowning in a sea of regret and what-ifs. If only she hadn't suggested the cliff. If only she'd just given Bianca the fungus from the mansion, they never would have encountered that murderer. The stoic youth listens to her guilt-ridden confession, his expression unchanging. A wisp of dark energy near his eyes, the only hint of his inner state. We see Crash in his caravan, listening to the conversation through the youth, his face grim. He has heard the entire tragic tale. The youth tries to offer some small comfort, stating that Lady Bianca must be safe. Jenica lashes out at his calm demeanor, yelling that it's been a whole week, and there's no way a bookish girl like Bianca could survive alone in those brutal mountains. An image flashes of Bianca, curled up and trying to stay warm against the biting cold, lost and alone, peacefully dreaming of the boy she promised to help, whispering his name. Her eyes flutter open, the brilliant blue reflecting the harsh, cold light of the snowy wilderness. She groggily sits up, realizing she had dozed off again amidst the biting cold. She clutches her leg, noting that while her body is at its limit, her injury seems to be on the mend. She remembers the fall, dragging the killer with her into the chasm, and her subsequent struggle through the icy caves. By sheer luck, she stumbled upon a clearing blessed by a giant tree, radiating an unnatural, life-giving warmth. In the clearing, she found what she was looking for, the white sunflame fungus, its strange blue growths pulsing with heat. She had set up a small camp in a cave, using the knowledge from survival books to treat her wounds and find meager sustenance. But the constant battle against the elements had pushed her to the brink. She wasn't sure how much longer she could hold on. Her promise to Crash was the only thing keeping her conscious, but her time was running out. A menacing, toothy mask loomed out of the snow. The butcher dog had found her. With glowing red eyes, he looked down at his prey, a sadistic smile playing on his lips. He sneered that the chase was finally over, his voice a low growl that promised a grim end. Weak and exhausted, Bianca forces herself to her feet, searching for food to regain some strength. She finds a small stash of acorns, likely hidden by a squirrel, and apologetically borrows a few. But just as she turns, a massive axe cleaves the air where her head had just been. The weapon smashes into the snow with brutal force, sending ice and debris flying. She ducks behind a tree, trying to recover from the shock of the near-fatal blow. Suddenly, a massive explosion of purple energy erupts in the distance, shaking the very mountains. The shockwave sends Bianca tumbling through the snow, disoriented and vulnerable. Dazed, she pushes herself up from the ground, the world spinning around her. The butcher dog stands over her, his shadowy form radiating pure malice. He calls her a creepy kid for not even flinching at his attack. He muses aloud that he never thought Valheim's fiancé would be such a handful. He lunges forward, his hand wrapping around her throat, lifting her effortlessly into the air. He snarls that if she'd just behaved, she might have made it home alive. His eyes fall on her snowflake hair ornament. He grins, remarking that the fancy piece could fetch a nice price. As her vision fades, her mind escapes to a happier time, a warm, sunny day at the Valheim estate, with a young Crash and his butler Ariad. She remembers the quiet, peaceful days spent with him, the way he made her feel something she couldn't name. A single tear traces a path down her dirt-streaked cheek, a testament to the warmth she now fears she'll never feel again. As the killer's grip tightens, she longs to go back home, to the Blue Pine Hall, a place where she finally knew happiness. But before her consciousness fades completely, a flash of purple light and a hooded figure appear out of nowhere. The mysterious figure lands a powerful blow, sending the butcher dog staggering back in shock. The attacker lands hard in the snow, demanding to know who dares to interfere. The savior is none other than Crash. The boy gently scoops Bianca into his arms, her eyes wide with a mix of confusion and relief. He looks down at her with a soft expression, telling her she did well, and that he'll take care of the rest. Fading fast, Bianca looks at her savior and whispers a single name, believing it's the boy she's been dreaming of. Crash gently places a cloak over the unconscious Bianca, instructing his raven, Krim, to take care of her. The scene flashes back, revealing a conversation between the Crash, his raven, and a terrified Evelesk. The necromancer insists they cannot interfere, as it would break the invader's code. The raven relays that their servants are too weak, and Evelesk still fears the butcher dog's master. Crash is left with a heavy choice. He reasons that since Evelesk already teleported him to the mountains, having her move him just a little further wouldn't technically break any rules. The raven's red eye glows with worry. It reminds its master that he only escaped their last encounter by a fluke, and the butcher dog is far stronger than him now. Crash's face is a mask of determination, the ghostly image of his formidable opponent looming in his mind. Crash makes a solemn vow. No matter how strong the enemy, he will be the one to win. He unleashes a whirlwind of dark purple energy, confronting the stunned butcher dog. He stares down his foe, his voice cold and hard, demanding he give it back. The butcher dog, Berkman, scoffs, asking what he could possibly want. The youth holds up the snowflake ornament, his aura flaring as he declares it belongs to his fiancée. A flicker of realization crosses Berkman's face. He finally understands, sneering that his opponent must be Valheim. The battle erupts. Berkman's savage red aura crashes against Crash's controlled blue power, sending shockwaves through the forest. His eyes glow with focus as he activates his sixth sense, barely managing to track his opponent's blinding speed. He grits his teeth, realizing the massive gap in their power. Berkman is an upper-class expert, while he has only just reached the mid-level. The two trade furious blows, the clash of their weapons echoing through the frozen landscape. Crash moves with incredible agility, his body a blur of blue energy as he desperately defends against the onslaught. He grits his teeth, pushing his body to its absolute limits to meet every single one of Berkman's ferocious strikes. Berkman finds an opening, his attack landing with a brutal crunch that sends the Crash's sword flying from his grasp. His sword spins through the air, embedding itself deep in the snow. Berkman laughs maniacally, declaring the fun is over. But in the next instant, he realizes his opponent has vanished. Confused, Berkman scans the area, his animalistic senses trying to pinpoint his target's location. On a nearby branch, the raven and a tiny penguin-like bird watch over the sleeping Bianca. He searches frantically, spotting the discarded sword but no sign of the boy. The boy suddenly reappears from under the snow, striking a clean punch to Berkman's ribs from behind with a powerful punch. Berkman stumbles, enraged that the boy managed to land a clean hit. He screams in frustration. Crash stands ready, knowing his current weapon is too weak. He realizes he needs something stronger to win this fight. In a stunning display, his hair erupts in flames, one half blazing with fiery orange. He unleashes Ignis. Berkman's eye widens in shock and fury. He understands now that this kid is dead set on beating him, no matter the cost. He decides to end this, unleashing his most terrifying technique. The world warps into a hellish red landscape as he casts Illusion Bind. Within the illusion, the boy is confronted by his own twisted, nightmarish reflection, a psychic assault designed to break his spirit. Berkman taunts him, asking how he likes the illusion and if he can possibly endure the mental torment. Berkman tells Crash, while swinging his sword, that he'll send him to the afterlife long before any help arrives. Berkman's illusion bind distorts the world around Crash, scrambling his five senses with a chaotic storm of sound. In this distorted hellscape, a ghostly image of Crash's bloody hands appears, a psychic attack meant to break his will. But Crash has been here before. He centers himself, his spirit glowing with a calm blue light as he prepares to fight back. He activates his sixth sense, his eyes widening as he begins to perceive the world not with his senses, but with the flow of aura itself. Berkman taunts him from across the snowy field, confident that his sensory assault is working, but internally, he admits it's a lie. His only goal is to buy time and lure his overconfident opponent into a mistake. Berkman charges forward, recalling how strangely Crash moved earlier, a sign that this kid is far from normal. Berkman redoubles his focus, knowing he can't afford to be careless against such a dangerous and unpredictable foe. With a mighty heave, Crash smashes his sword aimlessly, sending a shockwave of rocks and debris flying through the air. The attack misses, and Berkman's taunts continue, vowing to make Crash watch as he tears Bianca apart. The killer's eyes glow with sadistic glee, but Crash's face is a mask of cold fury, his silent defiance only enraging Berkman further. The killer asks if the illusion is finally getting to him, a cruel smile on his face. He summons a swarm of phantom battle axes, ghostly red blades that fill the air with malevolent energy. With a powerful swing, he sends the illusory axes flying toward Crash in an overwhelming assault. Crash grits his teeth, his body screaming in protest as he fends off the endless barrage. Watching from a safe distance, his raven Krim and the small penguin-like bird tremble with fear for their master. Evelesk is beside herself with worry, her face a comical mask of despair as she debates breaking the invader's code to intervene. She pictures Berkman's monstrous master, and knows that helping Crash could mean a fate worse than death for her. The force of the battle sends snow flying, startling the two birds watching over the unconscious Bianca. Krim stands his ground, but his little friend looks ready to flee at any moment. Overcome with a sense of duty, Evelesk steels her resolve, declaring that even a shut-in knows when they owe a debt to their savior. Before she can act, Krim takes flight and stops her mid-declaration. He lands back on her head, telling her to have faith in the man who returned her stolen heart. Krim looks on with unwavering belief in his master, while the little penguin nervously adjusts its glasses. The little penguin, who is Evelesk, tells him that even if he dies, she'll bring his corpse back to life. Meanwhile, Crash is at his breaking point, his flaming hair flickering as the strain of the battle takes its toll. He's been pushing his aura to its absolute limit just to keep up, and he can feel his strength failing. With his sixth sense fading, he knows that from here on out he must rely on pure instinct alone. He dodges a phantom axe, the illusion finally breaking, but he realizes with a jolt that it was just a decoy. The real attack is already swinging for his head, catching him completely off guard. In this moment of crisis, a vision from his past life overwhelms him. The image of his overwhelming sister, Charlotte, and a muscular man haunts him, a reminder of a power he could never obtain through normal means. But this time, he refuses to break. So what if he's not a genius? He shatters the chains of his past, his eyes blazing with a new, terrifying light. He has been hiding his fangs all this time. Unleashing the world erosion power he had absorbed, he ignites his very being with the flames of Ignis. His body undergoes a violent transformation as he activates Ember Erosion, a forbidden technique that shatters his physical limits. He feels his own blood burn, his eyes bleeding from the strain as he enters a berserker state. He knows he only has a 3-second window in this form, and he intends to make every moment count. A demonic silhouette of pure power erupts around him, ready to be unleashed. Berkman stares in shock, unable to comprehend the sudden, explosive increase in his opponent's power. He realizes too late that he's in mortal danger as Crash moves with blinding speed, becoming a blur of fire and rage. With a roar, Berkman unleashes a phantom voice, a shockwave of sound that shatters the air and distorts Crash's vision. His attack connects, but the residual effects of the illusion throw off his aim, only grazing Berkman's shoulder instead of taking his head. Berkman, seizing the opportunity, powers up his left hand with crimson energy. Crash's 3-second power-up instantly vanishes, leaving him drained and vulnerable as Berkman's claws swipe for his neck. But Crash has one last resort. With a roar of defiance, he unleashes the true form of his Black Hood skill. A monstrous toothed maw of purple energy erupts from his hand, clamping down on Berkman's arm and stopping the fatal blow. His mouth opens in a silent scream as a new, serene power awakens from the depths of his soul. His eye glows with a transcendent blue light, his focus reaching a state beyond mortal limits. Watching from afar, Krim recognized this legendary state with awe. Pushed to the very edge of death, Crash has achieved perfect unity between self and blade. Orbs of condensed aura begin to form around his spiritual projection. The orbs coalesce, forming a sword made of pure, solidified energy. His consciousness has become the blade itself, an extension of his will. Berkman's face begins to crack apart like stone, a look of utter disbelief in his eyes. He can only whisper a single question. Did he lose? Crash unleashes his ultimate attack, the embodiment of his new power, One Blade. The immense slash of blue energy bisects Berkman in an instant. The sheer force of the attack freezes the entire forest solid, encasing Bianca in a protective sphere of ice. August looks at him, his eyes filled with worry. In the present, Crash kneels in the snow, his own arm now a mangled mess. He holds up his ravaged arm, a testament to the brutal cost of his victory. Krim lands beside him and seems to ask if he's satisfied now that the fight is over. Crash looks up, his will unbroken despite his grievous wounds, and whispers that he is far from it. With his last ounce of strength gone, he finally collapses into the snow, the battle won. Krim looks down at his fallen master, a silent promise in his crimson eye. He resolves to take them all home, back to the safety of Blue Pine Hall. We see a flashback of Crash. Bianca sits with an empty gaze as a voice tells her that if she could just show her feelings, the world wouldn't seem so gray. In a lavish parlor, Crash Valheim looks on, his expression tense. This is supposed to be their final farewell. The two sit in a strained silence, separated by an entire room and a lifetime of trauma. Bianca breaks the silence, her face an unreadable mask as she poses a chilling question. If she were to die, would Crash feel anything at all? He scoffs, dismissing the notion. Their families had arranged their engagement, but now, they were practically strangers. This tense meeting is overshadowed by a bloody past. A flashback reveals the horrific day the Hardenheart's family was annihilated when its patriarch Daglakon went insane, slaughtering his household before taking his own life. In the aftermath, the Valheim family, seeing no more political value in the alliance, unceremoniously broke off the engagement. Back in the present, Crash sighs in agreement. This would likely be the last time they ever saw each other. But his demeanor suddenly shifts. A sinister purple aura erupts around him, his eyes glowing with cold intensity. He gives Bianca a chilling warning. If she decides she wants to die, she better not blame him for what comes next. Her own eyes narrow, sensing the palpable shift in power. His Black Hood skill manifests in a terrifying new way. A massive, fanged maw of shadow energy lunges forward, swallowing a small doll-like effigy of Bianca, symbolizing her snow doll curse. Dark, ethereal tendrils of energy curl around his tattooed hand as he prepares to absorb her affliction. He explains with grim confidence that he has consumed so many curses in his life, one more is easily nullified. He clenches his fist, taking the full force of the curse into himself. He asks her how she feels. For the first time, Bianca's eye widens, a flicker of genuine shock piercing through her stoic facade. The narration confirms it. On that day, for the first time since she was born, Bianca was freed from the snow doll curse. But a dark voice whispers that this cruel world gives nothing for free. Regaining her lost emotions came at a terrible price. She became a monster. The story jumps forward 3 years. to the war-torn, snowy lands of Hardened Hearts. A panicked soldier complains to his stoic companion about the endless, brutal conflict. His companion listens impassively. He calmly explains the war's origin. The Aphania Empire's second prince had defected to Hardened Hearts with damning secrets, prompting the Empire to dispatch the infamous Poison King to cover it up, resulting in the Hardened Hearts tragedy. The soldier mentions the legendary White Demon, who avenged the family by killing the Poison King, and is now said to be in hiding at the North Sea Aquarium. Suddenly, their conversation is cut short by a massive explosion that rocks their frontline supply base. The soldier screams in frustration, furious at the carelessness of the Staron forces. Amidst the smoke and debris, a familiar face is revealed. It's an older, battle-worn Crash Valheim, caught in the blast. A squad of enemy soldiers in black uniforms spots him. They immediately recognize him as a member of the elite Azure Generation, and know this is no ordinary opponent. Crash grits his teeth and dashes through the snow, his body screaming in protest. He's used too many curses. He's broken beyond the point of any normal healing. He arrives at a formidable, snow-covered castle, his last and only hope. He has to find Bianca. He pounds desperately on the massive gate, screaming her name into the biting wind. With enemy forces closing in, he has no time to wait. He opens the gate. A devastating wave of ice magic, a storm of frozen razor-sharp blades erupting from within the gate. The uniformed attackers are caught completely by surprise, helpless against the sudden and overwhelming assault. In a brutal, chilling instant, the entire squad is annihilated, impaled on the vicious shards of ice. Through the falling snow, he finally sees her. He greets Bianca, acknowledging that it's been a long, long time. But the reunion instantly turns to horror. Bianca, pale and broken, with a single blue horn jutting from her head and a sword driven through her chest. He can only stare in disbelief, his mind reeling as the horrific premonition plays out before him. He rushes to her side, desperately cradling her dying form. He asks in a choked voice if the Poison King's daughter was responsible for this fatal wound. As she lays dying, Bianca recalls their conversation from years ago when he asked her which was harder, having emotions or not having them. Her mind drifts to a memory of the massacre, where her sister Jenica made a tearful, heartbreaking confession. Jenica had admitted that she never truly hated Bianca. What she hated was the part of herself consumed by jealousy and resentment. She had told a young, emotionless Bianca that she wasn't the kind of person anyone could truly hate. Back then, trapped in her cursed, emotionless state, Bianca couldn't comprehend the complex feelings behind her sister's words. She was simply a snow doll, locked away from feeling, even as her entire world was violently torn apart. So when the home that had tormented her finally collapsed into ruin, she felt absolutely nothing. But after Crash took her curse, she began to understand. And with that understanding came a painful, overwhelming realization. Her sister truly loved her. The thought unleashes a torrent of grief held back for years, and for the first time, she truly weeps. She collapses, finally overwhelmed by the sorrow she had never been able to express. She wonders what could have been if her emotions had awakened sooner. Perhaps they could have shared their grief as a family. Perhaps they could have even had a future together. A fleeting image of her and Crash, hand in hand in wedding attire, flashes through her mind. Looking up at him with tear-filled eyes, she whispers her final regret, that they couldn't have stayed together. The heartbreaking vision ends, leaving Crash in stunned silence, the weight of a grim future settling upon him. Back in present, he awakens with a gasp, no longer in the snowy ruins but in a warm bed. He is covered in bandages and his left arm is now gone. A small, delicate hand with snowflake-painted nails gently covers his remaining bandaged one. He turns to see Bianca at his bedside, watching over him. She tells him softly that she's right there, as his raven, Krim, announces that he has finally woken up. Disoriented, Crash asks if they're in Hardened Hearts. Bianca simply shakes her head as Krim watches them from the foot of the bed. She asks if his arm hurts, but he stoically brushes it off. In a cute, chibi-style moment, Crash scolds her for going up the mountain alone, explaining that if Krim hadn't led her to him, she might not have made it in time. Krim puffs out his chest with pride, the clear hero of the day. Bianca shyly admits she only went because she wanted to give him a rare medicinal herb, the white sunflame fungus. Crash can only sigh, touched by her selfless gesture. As he tries to sit up, a sharp jolt of pain reminds him of his grievous injuries. He holds up a blue, snowflake-like object, the very hair ornament that Bianca is known for wearing. He tucks it back into her hair, apologizing that he couldn't attach it properly. For the first time in a long time, a genuine, warm smile spreads across Crash's face. He affectionately pats her head, thanking her. With the herb she brought, he can finally create the elixir he needs. But Bianca's expression suddenly turns serious. She calls his name, her tone shifting entirely. He looks at her, confused by the sudden change in her mood. She confesses that even though he was gravely injured saving her, she still has no emotion. She can't feel joy, or sadness, or anger. She clenches her fist, her voice tight with frustration. She tells him this emptiness is unbearable. She looks at him with pleading eyes as memories of them laughing, crying, and fighting together flash by. She wants to feel all of it with him. But she's afraid. She doesn't want his emotions to disappear and become like hers. She tells him with heartfelt sincerity that if he can't smile, then she doesn't want to smile either. A small, knowing smile touches Crash's lips. He reassures her, explaining that her curse only works at half strength on anyone other than its intended target. He will be fine. Understanding dawns on her face. She takes his bandaged hand firmly in hers. A new, fierce resolve shines in her eyes, her determination unwavering. With a voice trembling with hope, she makes her request. "Crash," she says. "Please, bring my emotions back." A system window flares to life as a brilliant purple aura surrounds them. His Black Hood skill is reacting to her plea. A second unlock condition has been met. Crash must become the most important person to Bianca. A crystalline effigy of Bianca, once bound by heavy chains, shatters into 1,000 pieces, finally setting her spirit free. Bianca looks up, her eyes wide with wonder, a nascent smile gracing her lips for the first time. Crash grins back, telling her that this was his plan all along. He opens his arms, and a moment later a stunned and flustered Bianca is pulled into a gentle, warm hug. Overwhelmed, the emotional dam finally breaks. Tears of joy, sorrow, and relief stream down her face as she sobs uncontrollably into his shoulder. Holding her close, Crash whispers that if she can show her feelings like this, he doubts the world will ever look gray to her again. That's all for this chapter. If you enjoyed the recap, make sure you smash that like button. It really helps out the channel. And don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you don't miss the next explosive episode. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.